and welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. So on today's episode, we're going to head over to the Upper West Side and go luxuriate in our, big old penthouse while also trying to, ruin other people's lives and also try to fuck our stepbrother. But that's right, we're going to be covering 1999's Cruel Intentions. Now, I cannot do this movie alone by myself. It's just too fabulous and just exudes sexuality and horniness. So I have a guest with me today. So this guest you've never heard of before because she's never been on a podcast or anything. So this is her debut. She's a wife. She's a sister. She's a dog mother. And she's also a movie lover. I'd like to introduce you to my wonderful sister, Miss Sarah Heidelberg. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Good.
Excellent. Now, a little bit of history with me and Sarah. So, as I said, she's my sister. How much older are you than me around?
About 3 years.
About 3 years. Got it. So, and if you think at all, if I'm a movie fan or I like cult movies and shit, this young woman here, she has at least, if you had to count, how many movies do you think you have downstairs?
200, 250.
Yeah, 250. That just blows me out of the water.
Now that it's available to stream, I usually stream now. I don't actually have so many physical DVDs. Exactly. But
when the zombie apocalypse comes, though, you'll be straight. You'll be good. You'll be all right. But anyway, so yeah. Anyway, on my history with this movie, though, with Cruel Intentions, honestly, I don't think I ever watched it, all the way through until very recently. And by recently, I mean, last week or something. Legit, I just never did. Sarah, I want to know, because you're, my sister and all that. What is, your history with this movie? You said you wanted to come on and do a podcast about this. And you were like, let's do Cruel Intentions. Why exactly should we do this episode?
Because I think that it's just one of those movies that I watched when I was younger. Probably shouldn't have, for sure. But, it's one of those that you watch it, a lot of stuff goes over your head. It just does.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to understand it.
Of course.
Quite honestly. And, we all watch movies that we shouldn't watch at certain times.
Yes.
Because that's just kind of the mystery and the, kind of I really should be watching this, Because, you're going to watch it when you're a teenager and when you're an adult anyway at another time. And then everything makes sense. But it was just one of those, Ryan Phillippe, so cute. He was, in a couple movies before this. And our mom watched this. And,
yes, she did.
And, I'm sure that's probably why I was like, ooh, Ryan Phillippe's on the screen. And I love Reese Witherspoon. And I think I grew to love her in more things. But, this was probably one of my first movies that I watched her in. Fear.
Fear.
With Mark Wahlberg. It's another, younger...
She gets fingered on the roller coaster, y'all.
Yeah. That's another crazy movie. I don't know if you ever watched it. That's another one that, I probably shouldn't have watched what I did, but, it's fun.
Can we have Reese Witherspoon, just for a minute? Because I love her. She's kind of great. Elle Woods, like you said, in Fear. I've never seen Man on the Moon. Have you seen Man on the Moon?
Yes.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Maybe I'll watch it.
Her first movie.
It really is. And then also just I never watched Big Little Lies. I know you're into that.
That's a series, yes. That was pretty good. Now, have I seen all of her movies? No. I mean, it sounds horrible, but she probably is, one of my favorite actresses. But yes, I mean, her, early 20s, mid-20s, 30s, that era of movies she did that I can think of, those are just masterpieces.
I know.
Legally Blonde, that's a great movie, and it's so quotable. But yeah.
I was also shocked at Freeway. First off, I didn't know that my sister here had watched Freeway before I did, and whatever. And y'all,
that one's crazy.
Yes, I would probably cover that at some point because that one's crazy.
You put her in that movie and put her in this movie. It's two completely.
She says the N-word in Freeway, and she is a illiterate daughter of a prostitute.
It is crazy.
Y'all, if you haven't watched Freeway, please watch Freeway. That is a fantastic movie. You're just a big old shitbag, aren't you, Bob? It's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But anyway, Cruel Intentions again. Watch it when I was 10 when it came out. I was gonna throw my age out here. I'm 33.
Yeah.
I was born in 1989, so I was 10 when this movie came out, and I was probably about 10 when I watched it again.
Absolutely.
Not something a 10-year-old should watch, but you can't say if you're listening to this that you haven't watched things you're not supposed to when you're that age.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure I watched it, when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, more of a teenager age. And I think I understood a little bit more things that kind of went over my head as a child.
Right.
And now just rewatching it, we watched this actually just as a recap, last night. And before this, I actually watched it a few months ago. It had been a while. I had watched it in full, and now everything makes sense, and everything is like, got it.
Yes.
But it's like, it's so funny that I can go back and remember that watching this and just like whatever part of the movie it is that they say, and they quote things, and, and something happens, you know, going back to my 10-year-old self going, huh?
I know, right?
And now I'm like, oh gosh, okay.
I'm also the same person.
There's several movies that I did that
God,
on.
yeah. I'm also the same person who watched...
Rewatch it as an adult, it's a different experience.
Yes. I'm also the same person who literally watched Jawbreaker when I was like 7 or something. Yeah, and it's literally one of my favorite movies.
Oh, also, shout out to our mom. I mean, our mom is wonderful.
I love her. And Mom, if you listen to this...
This does not make her any...
No.
It's nothing crazy at all.
Not at all.
It's just, you know, like I said, you're going to
My sister might have watched Melrose Place when she wasn't supposed to. You know, whatever.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210
Obviously, whatever. You were a little... Yeah, true, that's right.
Again, probably a little young, but, you know, I've always kind of liked things like that. You know, it's just how I am. I like
You're just
things
mature
like that.
For your age.
And you know what? A good friend of our Barbie, I'm pretty sure we were talking about this movie point in time in the past couple of years.
Shout out Barbie, I know you listen.
Yeah. And you watched this at another time.
Oh, yeah, completely. Or, like, Romy and Michelle. Like, I remember growing up with that movie, and, like, we weren't supposed to watch it. Not that my mom said we couldn't watch it, but, like, it's an R-rated movie. They say fuck one time. But, like, you know, whatever.
Or some of these adult jokes or adult things are definitely going to go over.
I watched a whole movie about them accidentally killing their best friend, y'all, okay? I shouldn't have been seeing that, but it was colorful, okay?
Right.
Anyway.
You're like, and it made me who I am
today. And it made me who I am today, okay? But anyway, without further ado, though, we're going to move into a little bit of the figures of this movie, all that kind of stuff. So you know how we do on here. Cruel Intentions was released March 5th, 1999. The year of the movie, if you didn't already know that, Sarah.
Technically, I either watched this when I was 9 or 10.
Probably, yeah. But
September baby, so.
The year of the movies... I mean, when you think about 1999, had so many bangers. These movies, these teen movies, the prequels to Star Wars, The Matrix, Blair Witch Project, a lot of shit going on that would be like... American Pie, again, teen movies. Like, 15 plus teen movies came out, which was crazy. So, yeah, 1999, big ups to them. Yep. This was written by Roger Kumble, who did also the sequel to this as well. And he also directed it as well. This was produced by Neil...
gave that thing a chance.
Yeah.
The only good one
it has Amy Adams in it, apparently, but that's all I know. Yeah. It's also produced by Neil Moritz. If you don't know who Neil Moritz is, yes, you do, because he is the producer of the movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is probably where he got these two from. And he also did Urban Legend as well. And
makes sense.
Teen movies he was doing. Neil Moritz was in there. So that's probably why he got these two actors to play Catherine and Sebastian, is like they literally...
Because they were in
I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we'll probably do too with her as well. We're looking at a box office, or a budget, I guess, of $10.5 million, and then a box office of about a gross US and Canada of about $38,773,785 from IMDb, and then a gross worldwide of about $76,347,426. So there were a whole lot of horny teenagers going and seeing this movie, okay? And I don't blame them. We're looking at a Rotten Tomatoes score of 54% on the tomato meter, rude, and then an 80% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. We're looking at a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb and a 3.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So for our cast of characters, we have good old Sarah Michelle Gellar as Catherine Mertoy. That's how you say her name, apparently. Ryan Phillippe as Sebastian Valmont. Reese Witherspoon as Annette Hargrove. Selma Blair as Cecil Caldwell. Louise Fletcher as Helen Rosamond. Joshua Jackson as Blaine Tuttle. Eric Mabius as Greg McConnell. Sean Patrick Thomas as Ronald Clifford. Swoozie Kurtz as Dr. Regina Greenbaum in the beginning. Christine Baranski, the one and only, as, I didn't know this, Bunny Caldwell. I just knew her as Mrs. Caldwell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Elena Reed Hall as the nurse at the retirement home. And then we have Tara Reid as Marcy Greenbaum in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So some critical response quotes we have for this movie are, we have Madeline Williams from Cinematter who says, the film stumbles a bit at its conclusion, modified from the book. But in a way, that seems jarringly false. Still, you can certainly do worse than Cruel Intentions, which, though clumsy at times, at least is not brain-suckingly vapid. We then have Andrew Saris from The Observer, just The Observer, says, at this infantile state level of appraisal, I suspect that Miss Gellar and Mr. Phillippe may have a harder time next summer than last. Okay, that's kind of funny because it was I Know What You Did Last Summer. Y'all stupid. Anyway, so then you have Joe Morgenstern from the Wall Street Journal, who states, "You gotta see it. No, that's a figure of speech. To believe the goofiness of French aristocrats recast as pansexual degenerates from a private school on Manhattan's Upper East Side." So before we move into a plot summary of Cruel Intentions, I just wanted to go over a little bit of background about what this movie is and what the source material is and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm sure my sister can also school you on a few little fun facts we were able to find. But if you didn't already know, this movie, Cruel Intentions particularly, is actually based off of a French novel called Les Liaisons Dangereuses, or just Dangerous Liaisons is fine. It was made and written by a guy by the name of Pierre Chodelos de Laclos. Any French people who are watching or anybody who took French, please do not hold it against me. I took a semester of French and I had to do pass-fail on it, to be honest, because my grade probably would have sucked. But anyway, so he wrote this, and so I'm going to take
I never took French.
I never did it. Yeah, I did it like once. Anyway, so this is an epistolary novel. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a novel that's made up like letters and like diary notes and things like that. That's what an epistolary novel is.
Got it. Okay.
So pretty much this story, I'm reading this from Wikipedia, so I tend to trust it because I'm pretty sure it's just on here. But this story is about the Marquis de Morteuil and the Vicomte de Valmont. Those last names sound kind of familiar. Two amoral lovers turned rivals who amuse themselves by ruining each other and ultimately who destroy each other. And so it was seen as depicting the corruption and depravity of the French nobility shortly before the French Revolution. And then even though this had been written 10 years beforehand, it's kind of crazy that it could be like, oh, this kind of almost predicted what was going to happen. I don't know anything about French history, so I'm not going to go that much more into it. But the author aspired to write a work which departed from the ordinary, which made a noise, and which would remain on earth after his death. Anyway, so as an epistolary novel, this is actually made up of letters that are written by the various characters to one another. So in particular, the letters between Valmont and the Marquis make up a majority of this, along with the ones with Cécile Volanges and then Madame de Tourvel, which I'll explain all of what that is. But anyway, so then I'll go over a plot summary of baseline of what this story is, and then I'll talk a little bit about the film as well. And then again, Sarah has not seen the other film, so she can't really say much about it. But anyway, according to Wikipedia and the plot summary we have for this, the Marquis de Morteuil is determined to corrupt the young Cécile de Volanges. So Marquis Morteuil is, in this movie, is Catherine. And then Cécile is, well, Cécile, that's her name, some Blair, whose mother, who is Christine Baranski, has only recently brought her out of a convent to be married to Morteuil's previous lover, who has rudely discarded her, which we do see in this film a little bit. At the same time, the notorious Vicomte de Valmont, who is Sebastian, is determined to seduce the virtuous, married, and therefore inaccessible Madame de Tourvel, who is Reese Witherspoon. So in the other movie, she's actually also married. So she's not married in this, but she's a virgin. Madame de Tourvel is staying with his aunt while her husband is away. Cécile falls in love with the Chevalier de Nancy, who's in the Dangerous Liaisons movie. Do you know who plays him in the Dangerous Liaisons movie?
No.
Keanu Reeves, a young Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
And in this movie is Sean Patrick Thomas.
Gotcha.
So then, yes, Cécile falls for him, and Morteuil and Valmont pretend to help the secret lovers in order to gain their trust and manipulate them later to benefit their own schemes. So Morteuil first suggests that the Vicomte should seduce Cécile in order to enact her revenge on Cécile's future husband, but the Valmont refuses, finding the challenge too easy, and he wants to devote himself to seducing Madame de Tourvel. He is, however, interested in resuming their affair, so that's why you see in this movie, he's still screwing with Cécile a little bit, but he mostly has his attention on Annette. Morteuil promises Valmont that if he seduces Madame de Tourvel and provides her with written proof of this, she'll spend the night with him pretty much. And at first, Valmont is able to convince Tourvel that he has turned over a new leaf, but he doesn't find it as easy as his many conquests. Now, also keeping in mind that in the story, these people are not step-siblings, so they are not. So for some reason they added the step-sibling thing in there, but in the normal story, these people were just ex-lovers, pretty much. During the course of this pursuit, Valmont discovers that Cecile's mother has written to Madame de Tourvel, warning her about him, which we do see in this film, and he avenges himself by seducing Cecile, as Merteuil had suggested. And meanwhile, Merteuil takes Danceny as her lover, which is why we see this and there, Catherine and Ronald get together. Mm-hmm. And we'll go over that in the plot summary. But anyway, by the time Valmont has succeeded in seducing Madame de Tourvel, he seems to have fallen in love with her, which we do see. And jealous, Merteuil tricks him into deserting Madame de Tourvel and reneges on her promise to sleep with him. And in retaliation, Valmont reveals that he had prompted Danceny to reunite with Cecile, leaving Merteuil abandoned again. Which is then why Merteuil declares war on him and reveals to Danceny that Valmont had seduced Cecile, which is then near the end of this movie why they have this whole thing happen where they duel. So then Danceny and Valmont duel, and Valmont is fatally wounded. He's killed, and before he dies, he gives Danceny the letters providing Merteuil's own involvement. Does it sound familiar? And these letters are sufficient enough to ruin her reputation. So she flees to the countryside after she gets smallpox. Her face is left permanently scarred, and she is rendered blind in one eye. So she loses her greatest asset, her beauty. Desperate with guilt and grief, Madame de Tourvel succumbs to a fever and dies, while Cecile goes back to the convent. And that is the end of Dangerous Liaisons, the French novel.
Okay.
All right. So then that's all there. And then this got turned into a play in 1985. I'm not really going to go into that because it's pretty much the same thing. It was done by a guy named Chris Hampton, and it's pretty much the same kind of movie. I don't even know if it did go to Broadway in 1987. That's fun. But this is what prompted the Dangerous Liaisons movie that came out. So then this movie is literally, I actually just watched it. I watched it last night, including with Cruel Intentions a little bit too, to kind of brush up. And pretty much I'll give like a comparison of what this is. So like, Glenn Close plays Catherine in this movie. We then have John Malkovich, who's playing Sebastian in this movie. We have Michelle Pfeiffer playing Annette in the movie. Uma Thurman, who is Cecile. Swoosie Kurtz, who plays the Christine Baranski role, who actually is Dr. Regina Greenbaum in the beginning. Tara Reid's her daughter. Keanu Reeves plays the Sean Patrick Thomas character. And Mildred Natwick plays the Louise Fletcher character in this. And then Peter Capaldi, for anybody who likes Doctor Who, he was one of the doctors. And he actually plays Aslan, who is Joshua Jackson.
Gotcha.
And then a lady by the name of Valerie Gogin, she plays Julie, who is the chambermaid, and that is Eric Mabius. That's Greg. Oh. Because that happens in there. So the differences are that they're not step-siblings, so there's not weird, like, step-sibling porn incest. I know. And also, it takes place in France, obviously. Valmont and Danceny sword fight, and that's how he gets killed. So that happens. Annette is married, so
how
that's
else
why.
How else do you duel back in the...
Exactly, you're gonna... That or, like, a gun, I guess, but, like, there's that. And yeah, I mean, that's the pretty much difference. It's still a very good movie, I would say. The other one was, like, how... You remember how, like, I think it was Sebastian who kind of blows off Annette and breaks up with her. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that he does in Dangerous Liaisons, or one of the ways, is that he gets a concubine. He gets a prostitute, pretty much. You see that as well. Oh. Also, John Malkovich does give, like, a good performance in it. I will say that. It definitely gives you those Ryan Phillippe vibes. We'll get into that, because I love Reese Witherspoon, but Ryan Phillippe, he's a hit or miss for me. What do you think? Yes. Phillippe, whatever. But yeah, like, Ryan Phillippe, to me at least, is like, he's hit or miss, but what do you think of him?
I like him, and he's very attractive.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a good chunk of why I watched it back in 1999.
Right.
I'm sorry, I mean, the curly blonde hair, Justin Timberlake was my favorite back in then, so clearly I had a type. I also like the blonde spiky.
Yeah.
Again, There was a type I liked.
Yeah, sure. I get it. Anyway, so we have that. But yeah, and then also, if you didn't already know, although I'd be surprised if you didn't, Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Phillippe, were married and had Phillippe. They were like married and had children and everything.
2 kids. They had a daughter and a son.
They did not meet on this movie. They met before it. So they were like literally fucking me on this movie, which is funny.
So the chemistry, is
really good.
Is there because they were really together. They had a daughter and a son, and they are both full-ass grown adults now, which is crazy.
They really are. And also, I think apparently they co-parent, and I hope they're on good terms.
I think her youngest actually just turned 18, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
And then her daughter is maybe 21 or 22 or something.
That's crazy.
She was born 1999. She was born the year this movie came out.
I love that, though.
And I think their son was born in 2002 or 2003.
I love that.
Or something.
I hope they co-parent and are amicable, if anything. Because that's always weird when you have, this huge thing. Yeah. So, anyway. But we have about, that background. So that's a little bit about that. Sarah, I was told that you have some fun facts for me. So you should also, bring those up now. What we can talk about.
So, what were the fun facts I had? Oh, I had, 2 or 3, maybe?
All right. I'd like to hear them.
So my fun facts, which I found while I was watching yesterday, not so much that I found, but just kind of thought it would be relevant for the podcast. When we get into the plot summary, there is a part of it pretty early on that they have a magazine article that discusses Annette Hargrove, aka Reese Witherspoon in the movie. Or when you have the magazine up, you see a person on there.
Yeah. On
the cover, obviously. It's a 17 magazine, 17 magazine was all the rage back then. And it took me a second, but I realized they lifted it up and it was kind of in frame, and you're like, okay. And then the scene went on a couple seconds. I said, rewinded it 10, 15 seconds back, and it's Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Which is so funny because
obviously. Ryan Phillippe, Sarah Michelle Gellar, her, and Freddie Prinze Jr. were all in I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I believe was done in 1997. So it was 2 years before that. So I think that was a little funny.
And also funny because Neil Moritz produced this movie, and he did that movie.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that until you said it earlier in the show.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of a little funny thing that they probably put in there, Jennifer Love Hewitt, 17 magazine, Ryan Phillippe, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, yeah.
Ha 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 ha, yeah. Kind of came across that yesterday, thought that was funny. Also, if you've seen this movie, obviously there's about 3 iconic scenes in the movie that you just when you hear it, you think of the movie, or that scene, you know what I'm talking about. Cecile is innocent, ditzy, but she's just, very sheltered, I think is a good way to put her.
That's good, yeah.
Because of her mom, all that stuff. So, Catherine, obviously we know Catherine is basically a crazy pants. Yeah, crazy pants psychopath, however you want to define it. So anyway, there is a iconic scene where they're in Central Park, as you can see in the background, and Catherine is trying to show Cecile, kissing, because Cecile is, again, very sheltered, so, she's never kissed a boy. I would say
how do you learn how do you think girls learn?
Exactly. How far I think she may have only held hands with the boy.
I think
that's
so.
about as far as I think we'll go. She was like, you're gonna show me? So basically, Catherine shows Cecile, they kiss. They pack a cute little kiss. Yeah. And then Catherine's like, well, let's do it again with tongue. So and basically, they make out, in this scene. And, funny enough, the next following year, everybody, if you are basically the ages from, I would say, 27
to 30.
27 to 35, 36, in that age range. You watched the Video Music Awards, Absolutely. The MTV, Music Awards. I mean, you watched them. I mean, they were iconic.
Yes.
You had the
performances, you had the hosts, all of that.
I mean, you had the skit. Not really skits, but skits, all that good stuff.
Andy Dick's crazy ass being in there.
Yeah, they all come, they all fly in together, and they always had movie awards for the movies that were, made in this time. So.
Fun fact, a best fight that won was from The Craft. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, The Craft won Best Fight in 1996 or 7 or something. We're going to do The Craft at some point. I don't know when. It's going to happen. And I think
this is going to be 3 hours by the time
I know. It's fine. That's okay. And then also, I think Best Villain one of the years was Courtney Shane from Jawbreaker.
That's right. Yes. Anyway, back to the thing. Sorry. So it was the MTV Movie Awards.
Yes.
Had all kinds of stuff. Best Breakout Role, Female, Male, best movie, all that good stuff.
They also made up some of their own categories.
Right, like funny haha categories. But they always have, for as long as I can remember, as far as Twilight, I remember seeing it, and that's just 10 years after this, is The Best Kiss.
Yes.
And of course there was 5 or so selections. And I don't remember what this was all included with, but Catherine and Cecile won the 2000 MTV Movie Awards for Best Kiss.
I love that.
And if you are aware of this, or this is honestly something you can YouTube now, because if you are not a kid of the 90s, I should say, you can basically probably YouTube anything you think of. So, what they always did is they would always usually recreate the kiss. Not recreate it, but they would always give people what they wanted. I don't think they went full makeout, but they did kiss. So everybody's like, oh my gosh. And they've done that for other things. Another iconic movie kiss that won several years later, The Notebook.
Oh,
Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. That is like totally off topic, out in left field. But that's another great one that is, another iconic one, I think. Anyway, so another fun fact is this in this movie, this specific scene. That's an iconic scene. And of course, another thing is, this actually is kind of, to me, another good movie about, like, people, like, learning their sexuality, too. Like, I'm sure people, like, that were younger, that they were bisexual, gay,
I was gagged
lesbian.
that Joshua Jackson's full-on gay, and Sebastian doesn't care.
Right.
Which I kind of love.
And so this wasn't so much, definitely two girls kissing, you would think, yes, is lesbian-like, but somebody might have saw that and was like, like they were kind of questioning, like, do they, they don't know, and it's not really as some people like to think, the conventional man and woman. No, I mean, that's not always like, this kind of explored everything. There was two guys in a bed together, so
these
like,
tweens were horny, y'all.
It explored a lot for that. So I think especially in the time it came out, a girl could have been like, and it could have been
and
like...
also, here's two...
I think I might like her. It's like, that's you go. You do, like, that's right.
It's crazy that Sebastian redeems himself by the end, but it's unfortunate that, spoiler alert, he dies. If you didn't already know.
Yeah.
If you heard my plot summary earlier of the book. But,
he doesn't mean a good ending, we'll say.
No, but the fact that, like, Sarah Michelle Gellar was playing against type, and she was a bitch.
Yeah.
But also, she kind of had a reason to be a bitch. Like, she didn't care. She was kind of really, like...
But I also think, again, going back to the finding... I don't want to say finding who you are, but, like I said... Movies like this can definitely, make you question, what you like. Like, you don't just have to like a boy. You don't just have to like a girl. As we are growing up, and especially in this 2022, there's still issues all over the place. And it's crazy. This was a very good, kind of like...
That's why this movie holds up, y'all. It's still pretty great.
Exactly, it holds up.
You have any other fun facts?
I think I have one more. Give me one. Oh, another fun fact that's like kind of, not really, I don't want to say actually, I'm sorry, it's not really a fun fact, but for people that... Lay
it on us, girl.
Don't know, or not aware, Sebastian's aunt...
that is Louise Fletcher.
Louise Fletcher.
Or Helen Rosamond,
Rosamond. Fun fact, Flowers in the Attic.
She
was the grandmother...
You're so right.
In that movie, and if you've ever watched, I will say this movie came out in like 87 or 88.
Yes, it did.
I think it was a TV movie. Like, I don't think it came out in theater.
Like a Lifetime weird movie.
Lifetime. Kind of. It had Christy Swanson in it.
Sorry, we love Buffy, but like she's a weird.
And then there was some other.
I didn't know that was her.
That is her. She is the grandma.
She's
grandmother,
the granddaughter,
and she is...
No, I didn't know Christy Swanson was in that movie. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she plays the daughter, because there's 4 kids. She's like the oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And there's like a guy who's like the older brother, and then, So that comes off books, kind of like this, and that's a whole other... That is a whole other can of worms, I will just say, for that movie. But some people that were to watch this, because this was about 10 years after the movie, wow, this lady looks familiar. And the first time I remember seeing her was watching Flowers in the Attic.
Yes.
And she is just a vile...
This is another movie that Sarah watched way too early,
Exactly.
I think.
She was a vile woman.
Oh, yeah.
And it was scary, She was like, you
that
looked at her...
scary as shit.
And you were like, whoa. Obviously, spoiler, she is not like this in this movie. She has a very small role.
She's very nice.
But you see her, and she's kind of got one of those faces that, like, it's her.
Do you know what else she did, Sarah?
She did something, and I don't remember what it is, but I know when you tell me, I'm going to say I know.
Yeah. So one of her big roles that she is very much known for is a little movie with Jack Nicholson in it called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. She's the nurse.
The nurse, yes, okay.
The one that Sarah Paulson had the Ratchet show about. Nurse Ratchet. She's Nurse Ratchet. That's how she's known, yeah.
Okay.
More people would know her for Nurse Ratched than they probably would for Flowers in the Attic. But Flowers in the Attic is
That's how I remember her, yeah.
That is iconic, though, too.
And as that is basically my fun facts, I just wanted to include Louise Fletcher because I actually kind of forgot.
She's great.
I actually kind of forgot she was in there until I was watching yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's in there. And I was like, Flowers in the Attic. And I was like, that is also another, like, crazy movie. And that actually, fun fact, that had its own little movie. Like, they just did that back in the 80s. That was it. Uh-huh. And if you are into they've got series of books.
Yes, they do.
V.C. Andrews.
They have some other and movies.
And then Lifetime, recently, in the past few years, they have redid retellings. Not retellings, but they've done...
Remakes,
I should say. And it's a whole thing. So if you ever are into anything like that, that is something to check out as well.
I would love it, too. I need to watch Flowers in the Attic. I really haven't watched it all the way through, but it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Sarah, would you like to know who else was in the category for Best Kiss at the 2000
I
MTV
actually
Movie
would,
Awards?
because I like I said, I was trying to figure out what year it was, because my mind was like 1999 movie, but then I gotta think, kind of like the Oscars, anything that came out the year before is going to be in the year.
So we know who won.
Whatever.
We know who won.
But I didn't read them all.
We have watched one of these movies in this very home we're recording in today, and it might have had something to do with... Let's just say that this movie that I'm talking about and this movie we are talking about, Cruel Intentions, both of these movies were parodied in a certain movie.
Not another teen movie.
Well, yeah, that, but like...
No, we didn't watch that yet.
We didn't watch that yet. Don't worry, y'all. We're going to probably watch that at some point and record about it, because...
Y'all, it's got Chris Evans in it.
Yes, it does. Ow.
That's this year's Sexiest Man Alive. People's Sexiest
Man. Would you let me tell you?
Yes.
Drew Barrymore and Michael Vartan.
Oh, yes,
and Never
I
Been
did
Kissed.
look at that. Yes, we did watch that. That's also another very good movie.
Would you like to try to know the other one? Or I'll let you know the other one.
Is another one like The Matrix?
No.
Oh.
Matrix was in here, though, but it wasn't for Best Kiss. Y'all, if you've listened to some of my episodes...
I just remembered, actually, I think like the next one I looked down was Drew Barrymore, and I was like, oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, kind of glad that this one won the Best Kiss.
Honestly, I'm not gonna be mad about it. The other one is, y'all, if you've listened to my episodes, and you know that on my Scream episode, I talked about this movie, because it's not good. Katie Holmes and Barry Watson in Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
Oh, yeah. I think I watched that.
It's a bad movie, y'all. Yeah. It is not good. It is Kevin Williams' only directorial thing, and there's a reason.
Let me tell you, I've watched it. It's forgettable.
It's forgettable. And Barry Watson was, if you don't know him, is he still Mr. Did he marry Jessica Biel or no?
No, Jessica Biel is married to Justin Timberlake.
Wow, I need to learn these things.
Y'all.
Oh, but wait, hold on.
Did I not just discuss Justin Timberlake with the curly ramen hair earlier?
Wait, but do you know who Barry Watson was married to, and I think might even still be married to?
No. He was in Seventh Heaven.
He was in Seventh Heaven, and he was in Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Did you know... Ooh, we're finding out things on the pod today. So Barry Watson, he was in Seventh Heaven, and whatever. But did you know he's been married to Natasha Gregson Wagner for years and years? Do you know who that is?
No.
That is Natalie Wood's daughter. There's
okay.
Mm-hmm, the actress. But also... She was in a movie that we were just talking about a little earlier. She's the lady in the beginning of Urban Legend. That is her. And also, speaking of Christy Swanson and Buffy, she has a small part in that movie in 1992.
In Urban Legend?
No, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Christy Swanson was Buffy, and so she was Cassandra.
Wasn't Luke Perry in that movie, too?
Yes, he was. And David Arquette's in that movie. And Ricky Lake's in that movie.
Like we said earlier,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Beverly Hills 90210.
We hate Christy Swanson, but we love Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Beverly Hills 90210. Chef's Kiss. Those the boys. Dylan, Brandon. Dylan was.
You're also a Riverdale girl, so that's why too.
Well, I was Riverdale. Not so much. Girl. But anyway, we love Luke Perry in this house. Rest in peace.
That's so we're gonna give him his flowers on this pod. Okay, listen.
Again, I'm sitting here talking about Buffy, and I never watched him with it. I just happen to know.
You should watch the movie. It's kind of fun.
There. But he was like, "Come on now, not doing no Dylan bad boy." Like,
of course. And would you like to know the final one?
Yes.
Hilary Swank and Chloe Sevigny from Boys Don't Cry.
You know what? Now that I literally was looking at this, I just couldn't remember.
I know. But yeah, I'm glad that Sarah Michelle Gellar and Selma Blair won. That's pretty cute. So my little fun facts I have, of course. My little fun facts I have are not too crazy. Y'all, they shot a movie. I think they shot it like partly in New York, partly in LA. But some fun little facts I had were that when they were auditioning people for this role, so I mean, like Roger Bumble or whatever, he pretty much Kumble, I guess. He like begged Reese Witherspoon to do this. He really wanted her. He's like, you only work for 15 days. Just please do this movie for me, right?
But you know what? Funny. Like, I didn't know this, but, like, when you look back on the movie, she is, like,
Annette.
the perfect... If that's who they wanted to embody, like, an innocent, you know, doe-eyed type character. I mean, other than Freeway, I would say, in her ears. Yeah. She was like that in Fear. She was like that in Man on the Moon. She was kind of younger Man on the Moon, but, like, she plays that role very well, I should say. So I think she was, like, as far as, you know, when you read trivia, usually it'll be like, so-and-so, blah, 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 they auditioned for the role of Annette, or they auditioned for the role of Catherine, role of Ryan Phillippe. And I think that, you know, it seems as though maybe she was, like, the only choice, but...
No, she was not. Do you want to know?
Yes, but I just think that, like, I just don't know if they could have got anybody better.
Do you know who they wanted? Do you know who Columbia Pictures wanted to play Annette? Do you know?
Yes.
You don't know?
No, I don't know. I would like to know.
Katie Holmes.
Really?
Yeah, Katie Holmes.
Again, no shade.
I love her getting out of Scientology. Good for her.
Yes, no shade on Katie Holmes. Like, she's fine. But, you know, do you, boo.
But the director didn't think
it wouldn't have been the same if she was in it.
So the director didn't want her because...
That's why she didn't teach him Miss Tingle.
Yes, exactly. And Dawson's Creek.
Right.
She apparently didn't have the strength of the character that the director wanted, so Ryan Phillippe was already signed on. And then...
I just don't think I could have seen that chemistry between Katie Holmes and Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah, but then Kumble asked...
Even if Reese and Ryan weren't together, I think that they would have had amazing
the
chemistry.
director apparently asked about the girlfriend, Reese Witherspoon, and literally that's when he said, like, you'd be great for this. You've already been known in some other stuff. Yeah. Like, you could do this.
Wow.
Yeah. But one of the fun things I think was with Selma Blair's character, Cecile. They needed to legally ask people because it was a sex scene, like, you know, oh, like, how old are you? And because you have to be over a certain age to do this. I'll get into Selma Blair in a minute because I do love her. But apparently Roger Kumble said that when she came into audition, he asked, how old are you? And then in the best Cecile kind of like attitude, Selma Blair asked, well, how old are you? And that was like one of the ways that she really got him to like do that. Fun fact, if you didn't already know this, everybody, Selma Blair is the oldest person in this movie, pretty much, who's playing a kid. She was born in 1972 is when she was born. Ryan Phillippe was born in 1974, I think. And then Reese Witherspoon is like 3 years younger than him or something. So
I think she's like 77 or 78. Yeah.
Something like that. So like, yes, she was the oldest one. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar is probably similarly aged to Reese Witherspoon, I assume. Yeah, no. Like, she's the oldest one out of all of them. But she's playing the youngest one, kind of, or whatever. Which I just thought was really, really funny.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But this is why I'm here on the pod. This was initially going to be called Cruel Inventions. But they decided not to do that, which was good.
I mean, come on now. Cruel Intentions with what they were doing. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, it also makes sense with Dangerous Liaisons. Like, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
The director was apparently inspired by, I don't know if you've seen this movie, but I have, Welcome to the Dollhouse with Heather Matarazzo. He said
I've heard about it, but I've never watched it.
It's good. It's on HBO Max right now, but he hadn't seen anything like it. It was really dark, really fucked up, like middle school stuff, you know? And so he wanted to do this little Dangerous Liaisons thing. One of the fun facts, too, is that, of course, Swoosie Kurtz is in this movie. She was in Dangerous Liaisons, and so there's a little cameo they got with her.
Also, Micah Molly. She was very funny. She was the mom of Micah Molly. I know it's a completely
And she was on Broadway, I think, too, and all that
but
as well.
She was really funny in that.
Christine Baranski apparently only worked for 3 days, and one of the only reasons she took this movie was because her daughters were big Buffy fans.
Wow.
Which I really like and I thought was so funny. There are some other fun little things. Apparently, like, when Cecile's in her, like, red hoodie that she's in, that's, like, evoking Red Riding Hood kind of a thing. Yeah. Huh. And then, like you were saying, like, I think even this was, like, she was not pregnant during the filming. This was filmed from June to July in 98, and her kid came out a year later. So when the movie
being a September baby, and her daughter actually also being a September baby into this, they would have had to probably conceive in December.
Probably something
of
like
98 to her, for her to be born in September 1999, give or take if she was. So
she was pregnant during the press tour of this because they had shot
I do remember reading about, or not reading, but I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
Because, she was born in September 1999, their daughter was. I know that. Because I know that she was, like, close, like, her birthday is close to mine.
And then, of course, we have the fun things of, like, the fact that, like, Joshua Jackson and Tara Reid, who are in this movie, were an urban legend together. We have Selma Blair and Reese Witherspoon having been in Legally Blonde together. A lot of movie connections, just because it was that hot time at the time of year.
And, you know, it's like everybody's going to be in everybody else's movie. Or they're going to probably do some other movie down the road together. Also,
you know what fun fact is? I just talked about Welcome to the Dollhouse. You know how, like, apparently Roger Kumble was, like, inspired by that. Greg is in Welcome to the Dollhouse.
The guy who plays Greg? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he is. He plays Steve Rogers, the one that Heather Matarazzo is, like, all obsessed with. So that was really interesting. But anyway. But those are our fun facts, y'all. We're kind of all over the place with it. But here's what I will say before we move into our plot summary. I would also like to talk to you, Sarah, about book to movie adaptations specifically, because this is based off of a book. And as you may know, there was the onslaught of different movies that are based off of classic literature and all that kind of stuff. Do you have any, like, particular favorites of those or anything like that you can think of?
I mean, around this time?
Like, around this time especially. Or even, like, if it's not around this time, if you have one that you really want to go up for. I have one.
Let me tell you what. Our mom always makes fun of me for this. So if something gets made into a movie and or a TV show type series, I will get into the series and or movie or watch it and I'll be like, oh, and then I'll be like, based on a novel, and then I'll read it afterwards.
Right, of course.
The only time, I always try and be better about it, I just never do. Kind of more recently, like To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Really?
That trilogy by Jenny Han.
I love Lana Condor.
Yeah,
She's
we stand Jenny Han and her teenage young adult. Mm-hmm. Okay, again, I shouted my age earlier. I like these type of things. Like, yeah,
that movie's not horrible. I don't know about the other ones, but I did watch that one because I like Lana Condor. It's a 3 series.
It's 3 movies. Yeah,
I didn't like the boy in it, but I like the girl in it.
Well, I like the boy was. It was cute.
I guess. But,
I mean, she could too, but, you know. So, I think it was written maybe, like, in the 2010s era. I'm not sure.
And John Corbett's in it. That's fun. He plays the dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And we love that.
Yeah.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
And also,
Jesse.
And all United States of Tara.
We need to do My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
It's all on there because we do need to watch it, so...
Because...
This is that.
Let's do this, because I'm going to shout Mark out in this episode. My husband
Mark
hates that movie. He just doesn't like it, and it's fine, you know, he doesn't have to... You know, he's got his things, but I really like it, and so I think we should cover that one. But yes, John Corbett, he's good. Anyway, that's the only thing I can think of, like, kind of recently, where she did 3 books, and kind of became a trilogy of movies, came out different years. That was good. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I've read the first one. Mm-hmm. I believe, yes, I read the first full book in full. I started the second one, but I didn't finish it, so I'm horrible. There's actually another one that I'm actually trying to get into, is another one also by Jenny Han, because again, I think I like her.
Jenny Han, if you're listening, you know, hit us up.
If anybody was watching things over the summer I turned pretty.
Okay.
That had, oh god, what's her name? I can't think of it.
Some young starlet person. Yeah.
A lot of unknown names. You do see Rachel
Blanchard?
Yeah.
Cher from Clueless?
Yeah, so from the TV show, she plays a mom.
I love her.
So that's great. Another one that, it's a 3 trilogies. I watched the book. Of course I did.
We watched the book.
I watched the series that was like 7, 8 episodes this summer. And it was really cute, and it's based on novels again, and I actually bought all 3 because I really do want to read them first. So what I want to do is I want to read the first one, and then the second one's, like, in production right now, like, they're shooting it, so I want to, like, be ahead and be able to read that, so I can do that, and then the third one, so I'm sure they're going to make it for all of them like they did with Tom Boys Island before. So again, this is completely off topic, but those are things that recently. Yeah. But as far as, like, other... like, books around that time, I just can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, I can give you, like, maybe a couple. Yeah. One that I just said, which is Clueless, because Clueless is based off of a book.
Yeah, it's based off of Emma.
Emma, yeah. So there's that one.
And we love Clueless in this house.
We love Clueless in this house, and at my house, too.
We love Paul Rudd, we love Alicia Silverstone.
We don't like their weird, like, incestuous relationship, kind of, but if we're covering this fucking movie, you know, whatever. I do love that movie, it's iconic.
It is so iconic.
It's so good. It's on Netflix, y'all. Go watch it. We'll do an episode on it, I promise. But,
I mean, the fashion, the slang,
everything. Amy Heckerling, just fucking great.
It's great.
It's
and
so good.
Just a side note, I always wanted her closet. I mean,
always.
What girl or boy didn't want that
Always.
awesome closet?
Also, Paul Rudd. I mean, I like you and everything. You were in that horrible Halloween movie, but then you came out in this movie.
And also, Paul Rudd does not age.
He really doesn't. Another one we have is 10 Things I Hate About You. Always a banger and fun one. That is based off of Taming of the Shrew.
Yes, okay. I see, I'm not thinking like that. Like,
yeah. Have you ever watched... I recently just watched it.
We love 10 Things I Hate About You.
We do love 10 Things I Hate About You. Rest in peace, Heath Ledger. I love you. Did you ever watch the movie with Kirsten Dunst? It's called Get Over It. Have you ever seen that?
No.
You should watch it. It's fun. It's Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh.
So it's a Shakespeare adaptation. Okay. It has... Do you know who Ben Foster is? He was in...
was he in Bridesmaids?
I don't actually know.
The
Google machine's in front of me, so hold on. Wait a minute. We're going to figure this out.
Shoot.
He might have been in Bridesmaids, but he was in... he was Russell from 6 Feet Under, Lauren Ambrose's little boyfriend, like, later on in the season.
No, I think Okay, look him up and I...
He also is... He was formerly I don't know if they actually got married, but he was with Robin Wright Penn. We're going to look this up. This is very important to the podcast, if he's in there. You might be thinking of Ben Falcone. Do you know who that is?
No, that's
Melissa
McCarthy's
husband. Sorry.
He's married to Melissa McCarthy, and they have been doing their...
I don't think it's him. Paul Rudd was supposed to be in this movie, but he got cut from it, apparently.
Paul Rudd was supposed to be in Cruel Intentions?
No, Paul Rudd was supposed to be in Bridesmaids, but he got cut.
Oh, that's rude.
I know, right?
Sorry, I was like, what?
I know, right?
Paul Rudd in Cruel Intentions? Excuse me.
No, he was not in that movie. I don't see him in there. But do you know who Ben Foster is?
I don't think he could have played in this movie.
Probably not. Ben Foster is fine. Well, no, he was a little older. So, I mean, even though, whatever. Ben Foster, I'm pulling him up on my phone right now. That's him.
Wait a minute. Is he married to,
What did I just say? He was with Robin Wright Penn.
No, Laura Papin from That 70s Show.
Was also with yes, he's with her, and they're out of Scientology now, but he was also with Robin Wright Penn.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Anyway.
All I knew was her being with Sean Penn.
I knew that she was in that because it was the whole
And she was in Forrest Gump and The Princess
It was
Bride.
the rigorole of the fact that
Ben
she was
Foster,
with
now that I'm seeing the name, but no, I didn't.
So anyway, so it's him, it's Kirsten Dunst. Shane West in this movie has a horrible...
Y'all, Shane West.
I know. I watched A Walk to Remember, which Sarah really likes, I think, kind of. I like it not that much. I love Mandy Moore. And
Side note, I have a... he made a TikTok, and Mandy Moore made a TikTok.
I love that.
And Shane West, I, commented on something on his TikTok or whatever, and he, liked it or something like that. So, I just want to throw that out there. I mean, I don't know him, but,
Don't care. Love it.
Because I think their, 20th anniversary or something like that came up this year for the movie. And they, both, rewatched it and all that good stuff, and I did something. And so, somewhere in my TikTok history is, Shane West.
We're going down this road of, get over it, but it's so funny.
Sorry.
Melissa Sage Miller, you wouldn't really...
Shane West was...
Yeah, Shane West was in this movie. I love...
Still is, sorry.
I love Paz de la Huerta. Do you know Tracy from A Walk to Remember? One of the girlfriends. Her name's Paz de la Huerta. She's crazy, and I love her. But she was Tracy in that. And then, who was the other one? Oh! The girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know who she is? The one who, spoiler, she shoots herself in the face.
In the 2003 one?
Yeah, she was also one of the girlfriends.
And Walk to Remember. The first 5 minutes that does that, yeah.
I love her, though. She was throughout.
No, she wasn't.
Yes, she was. A little bit. She was, when they would have it. I just love
Would you like to know the last time I watched that movie?
I watched it, a month ago.
I watched it, back in 2003. I watched it, 20 years ago.
I did watch it, a month ago because it was on Freebie. But anyway, so Shane West.
I think I'm good. I don't need to watch this.
Also, Cisco. Shout out to Cisco, who's from Baltimore. He's also in this movie. Really bad. Melissa Sage Miller, if you know who she is, she did a few things. She was the blonde in Sorority Boys. She was the one they go to the dog place or whatever. They go to the ugly sorority or whatever. And she's the pretty one in there. Oh. That's Melissa Sage Miller. But she pretty much, spoiler alert for Get Over It, I guess, but pretty much Ben Foster and Melissa Sage Miller, they were together. She then breaks up with him. Vitamin C's also in this movie. She sings.
Of course she does, because why wouldn't she?
Why wouldn't she? Colin Hanks is in this movie. Zoe Saldana. Swoozie Kurtz again.
Some big names. Okay.
Some big names. Mila Kunis is in there. She plays Kirsten Dunst's friend.
We love Mila Kunis.
We do love Mila Kunis. And Ashton Kutcher. He's great. Y'all, you should go watch also the boy, one of the boy with the purple socks from Harriet the Spy. He's also in this movie.
Really?
A small part, yeah.
The dark hair boy?
I thought he was a redhead. The boy with the purple socks in that movie.
It's dark haired boy.
We also love Harriet the
Sparkles, yes.
Yeah, we also have we love Harriet the Spy in this house too, because it's definitely one that I saw in the theaters.
Oh yeah.
I do enjoy Michelle Trachtenberg. Michelle Trachtenberg, I hope you're okay. I hope you're doing okay and good, because you're great. But anyway, pretty much Get Over It is, like I said, it's about Ben Foster, Melissa Sage Miller. They break up, and Kirsten Dunst is like sisters with Colin Hanks in the movie. It's a whole fucking thing. It's like a musical version of A Midsummer Night's Dream. They open the movie with Love Will Keep Us Together by, I think, Captain Tennille. And then they end the movie with September. Do you remember the 21st day of September? They end it with them all singing it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they start it with Love Will Keep Us Together.
And that makes you think of the movie House Arrest, which is also, I think, doesn't get enough recognition. It's a cult classic as well.
It kind of is. I'm not going to lie with you.
You know, you've got good old Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Jennifer Love Hewitt. Oh, yes. Another, what's the dad's name? I can't remember his name.
Or whatever his name is, yeah.
And
Jennifer Tilly.
Jennifer Tilly's in it, yes.
Yes, all that
there
stuff.
is quite a couple people.
I'm telling you right now, okay, I'm not even going to lie to you. Like, we watched House Arrest. I didn't care for it a ton. It was like a 2 for me.
This is another movie my husband doesn't like that I made him watch.
It's fine.
That's okay. But these movies just like, there are some movies that you watch when you're a kid that, now this one definitely was like more kid appropriate.
It's Take Two, for example. Like, I don't know how much that holds up, honestly.
What?
It Takes Two. Like, I don't know.
That's a good movie.
Okay.
As is The Parent Trap.
The Parent Trap is kind of bomb.
That's another good one we should know. So anyway, House Arrest. It's a song it plays in there, but that's just on a little side note. It's also that I think that is a cult classic. I think if you would want to maybe even say it's kind of like an underground one, because a lot of people don't even know about that movie. To be honest with you, like you say it, they're like, what? Like you say it and they think it's something bad.
I know, right?
Like they think it's like a horror movie or it's like a gang, something like that's not like crazy, but it's literally
it's
just
silly.
like these kids lock their parents in the basement, but like not to torture them. They literally just do it
to make them not divorced.
They're not divorced, and it's just like a cute like little 90s movie.
It's like really silly. I'm telling you right now, anybody who watched House Arrest, there's a guy in there. What's his name? Mookie or whatever.
Yes.
He literally looks so much like the guy from Dazed and Confused. It's crazy how much he looks like him.
Yeah.
Also, I found out today, so I will be doing Dazed and Confused at some point, and this young lady over here might be joining me for it, because I didn't know you liked that movie a lot.
Yes, it is. That is like, well, I don't want to say it's like one of my favorites, but like
it's one of my favorites.
I've definitely watched it a lot, and I do like it. It's got so many. I mean, the music first and foremost. It's so just good. Like the chef's kiss. But it's good, and I just I can. It's one of those movies where I can sit down and watch it and at any time.
I agree with you, girl. I really do. This is not a Dazed Confused
young
podcast.
Ben Affleck, young Matthew McConaughey.
I know.
I mean, the names that are in this are
Parker
crazy.
Posey's there, Anthony Rapp's there, it's crazy.
Right, and it's it's good. It's fun.
This is a preview to our Dazed Confused episode.
Yes, and then I have the look. I mean the people who did the costumes or the wardrobe, whatever you want to call that.
I know.
I mean, of course, any type of period piece like that, but the it's good.
Did you ever watch American Graffiti ever?
No. You know what I did watch?
What did you watch?
I didn't watch that, but I did watch another movie. Like the director did Dazed and Confused. I think Richard Linklater.
Yes.
He did I don't want to say it's not a follow-up movie to this, but they did one that was more in the 80s. And I watched that 2 years ago, and it was
Yeah, girl, it's called Everybody Wants Some or something like that, and I heard it's horrible.
It is not Dazed and Confused.
It is not Dazed and Confused, but he did
Dazed and Confused is just he
did do Boyhood too, which apparently is really good.
But yeah, I would.
We hate Everyone Wants Some. I'm telling you right now.
If you would me to be on there, I would definitely. That would just be such a fun one to talk about.
It's so good.
I mean, you would have to just throw out the names of the songs.
American Graffiti is George Lucas's one of his first directorial debuts, pretty much. The guy who did Star Wars.
Was Robert De Niro in that?
Was he? I'm gonna look it up. The Google machine's in front of me. No. Do you know who you think you might be thinking of? So Richard Dreyfuss, I think, is in that movie. Oh. Yeah, so that's him. And then also
Jodie Foster.
No, she's in Taxi Driver.
Maybe I'm getting confused. I don't know.
No, I'm going to tell you. Hold on. Because actually, if we're talking about Dazed Confused, Richard Dreyfuss is in that movie. And then also Ron Howard's in that movie. Oh. A bunch of other people. Mackenzie Phillips is in there, too.
That's...
She's the little... She's the little girl. Not little, but she's a preteen girl.
But y'all, we gonna do Dazed and Confused sometime.
It's gonna happen. It's on my list.
And it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be really fun. But anyway, with all that being said, because we talked about our fun facts, our production history, just shooting the shit or whatever. But we're gonna move on to our...
Sorry, guys.
We did really... Don't worry about it. It's fine. We're gonna move into our plot summary of Cruel Intentions. So we begin our movie with our title sequence of, our actors' names and everything. We have this aerial shot over, a cemetery. But then also, we're moving into, the highway into Manhattan, New York. And pretty much we meet our main male character, Sebastian Valmont, played by Ryan Phillippe. He's driving over to therapy. He's seeing his therapist. Apparently he has a sex addiction or something he's trying to overcome or whatever the hell. And Sebastian is in therapy with Dr. Regina Greenbaum, played by Swoosie Kurtz, which we mentioned earlier, but she was in the Dangerous Liaisons movie.
Which I think, honestly, probably was a nod, too.
Was a nod, of course.
If she was in Dangerous Liaisons and she's in this, it's kind of a play on that, probably.
Of course. It would be like getting, John Malkovich or... somebody like that from the
I'm surprised
movie.
they actually tried to get another one, but...
I know, or Keanu Reeves or something, but he would have been really hot at this time, so...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Maybe it's a good thing they put him in here.
Maybe. He's
busy doing The Matrix.
He is. But anyway, so we have good old Sebastian's in therapy, and he asks for a hug from his therapist, I think. And then we hear the phone ring. The secretary says, oh, hey, your daughter's online too. While, she's like, oh, I'm going on my book tour and blah, blah, blah. And Sebastian's leaving his session. And then she gets on the phone with her. Oh, he says one of his lines. You want to say it, Sarah?
Yeah, I thought it was funny because there's a couple quotes in this movie that are pretty funny. He tells if you've watched the movie, you know that she's kind of in a business type suit with a blazer and a... one of those, those skirts that go to your knees.
Yes,
so you can see the legs with the heels. And Sebastian's you have killer legs. I'd love to photograph them.
Right.
And he says that, and I'm like, okay, it's kind of weird to say. But, he's Sebastian,
Then we get the phone call from
then you get the phone call.
Tara Reid, who is Marcy Greenbaum, which is the daughter of Regina Greenbaum. Mm-hmm. And she's crying because you put me on hold, all that. And pretty much at this point we get this, she's crying because, this guy, there's nudie pictures of me online, where it's literally you see this online and it just says, you are a slut. Yeah. You are a slut. And then if you want to say what it was.
Then, because he says that to his doctor, the therapist, Regina, and then she's crying. Tara Reid and her wonderful acting is crying throughout this. And,
we love you, Tara.
Yeah. She's crying in the phone to the mom. And she goes, I think the mom's like, oh, you let him...
you have to center yourself and all this stuff.
Well, then she was like, you let him do... She was like,
how could you be so stupid?
Yeah. So then she was like, well, he said you have killer legs. I'd love to photograph them.
He's so charming.
So he just said that to the therapist before the phone call. He says it in the phone call, or I'm sorry, the daughter says it in the phone call, and then at this time, Sebastian had took the book, he took her book or something, and he was out of there.
Yes, he was.
And then you just see
the therapist just on the window,
you're
not gonna get away with this.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
That was just a funny he said it, and then you didn't realize 2 minutes later that her daughter's gonna be doing it, and then that's why
it's so funny.
He basically was fooling around with the therapist's daughter.
Yeah.
And
it's so funny.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
That's just to tell you that perfect kind of thing puts it in there the first 2 or 3 minutes of how he is.
Oh, absolutely.
Or who he is.
Yeah. And then he meets Clarissa. I don't know who plays her, but then he's pretty much on to
Okay, I had the closed captioning on when I was watching it, as we do. And her name was weird.
It was CLO something. I was like, that's not how you spell Clarissa.
No shade if their name was spelled like that. But,
yeah, right. We love you, Clarissa, if you spell CLO.
But it just was is that okay?
Anyway, so then Sebastian drives to his penthouse, and then he parks on the street where he's not supposed to, apparently.
Of course.
Whatever.
Why would,
And he goes up to his penthouse because these people are rich, y'all, okay? So then we get our intro to Catherine, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy herself. We have Cecile, played by Selma Blair, who at this point had not been in a ton. This is kind of one of her big things she did. She'd then be in Legally Blonde. She was in and Out, which I showed Sarah not too long ago. She's
Sweetest Thing.
And in The Sweetest Thing, too. You're right. With is that Cameron Diaz's movie?
Cameron Diaz and Christina Applegate.
Got it. Love her.
It's a good movie.
We're going to do a Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead one, too, with good old Christina Applegate. We love her. Yes. But anyway, so...
That is a cult classic as well.
It is so a cult classic. And Mrs. Caldwell, Bunny Caldwell, played by Christine Baranski. God, God, I love Christine Baranski. I mean, everything. The Birdcage, the fucking Adam Stanley Values, just all of this stuff. It's so good. Anyway, so we find out about, like, Cecile is going into Manchester Prep, which is the prep school they go to. Like, I think it's Sebastian who says, you know, that's a very adorable shirt. And she's just like, some of Blair's just like, thanks, my dad took me on a trip to Australia. This girl, as my sister was stating earlier, I think she's just very sheltered or just kind of odd because her legs are just out, y'all. Yeah. You just see, like, her panties, and he's like, how are things down under?
Again, another good way to show how Sebastian is. Like, I watched that, Absolutely. And I'm like, oh, that's just the type of character he is.
Yeah.
That's who he is. Like, you know, he's just...
It is.
That's just who he is.
So, yeah, so then you see that when
And then, of course, Christina Baranski's like...
And she's like, stop, this isn't Jamaica. So then, then you have Catherine and Sebastian, they're talking, because then Catherine, when you see her, she's like this kind of really upstanding, like, lady. And then, you know, oh, she could do a lot for you. Blah-da-da-da. And then, as soon as they leave, she's just like, oh, poor,
she's a completely different person, just putting on a show.
And then also pretty much, so we find out at this point that Catherine is talking to Sebastian and talking about why she's taking Cecile under her wing is because of Court. Do you remember his last name, Court?
Was it Williams?
Something like that. Some guy who apparently dumped Catherine.
They showed him for like 2 seconds.
They really did, and she was like blowing him in the car, I think. But anyway, so like, yes, so she...
And that was it.
That was it. So anyway, so...
you'll see him again.
Court dumped her over the summer for Cecile, and this is why Catherine is taking her
and that is why she is like a mastermind plotter. Like,
yes.
She wants to do this. Like, this is just how the type of person
she is. Looking
she's not doing it to be a good
she's not
person. She's doing it because she's
completely.
Pissed.
And pretty much Glenn Close and John Malkovich are doing a similar thing in Dangerous Liaisons. Right. We see that she does coke out of her little cross.
Her little cross.
It's so cute.
Which plays a crucial role at the very end.
It's very, yes, exactly. And also, she's looking so cunt in this stuff. Ooh, her outfits. They look so good. But anyway, so after that, we find out Sebastian and Catherine are talking. This is where we get the magazine that comes up.
Yes, this is where the magazine comes into play that we had spoke about earlier with a fun fact that doesn't Catherine suggest to Sebastian that
he was going to seduce Cecile.
Seduce Cecile, not mess around with Cecile. Yeah. Seduce him. And he said, basically, like, he wants a bigger conquest. He's got bigger fish to fry. Like,
he takes the 17 magazine and he puts it in front. And I love her line where she says, like, I know how to alleviate menstrual cramps. Thanks.
Right.
But he's like, no, like, go to page, whatever.
And that's where you see Jennifer Love Hewitt again. Funny play on.
That's funny.
Play on movies that they were in this. They were both. They were co-stars in this movie. Very closely played the entire movie pretty much all together. Yeah. Of in that other movie they did, and it's just funny that they did that because I think that they put that in the movie. Probably because of that reason.
But we go into the magazine on page 64, and this is where we find Annette Hargrove, played by our girl, Reese Witherspoon. And this is pretty much her stating she's in Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri, or one of those. Anyway, so she is stating how she's waiting until she's in love to lose her virginity. And he's like, that's who I'm going to go after.
Yes,
and
that's who he wants to be with.
And he's all like, she's all like, well, you know, she's in Kansas City, wherever, and like,
have fun with
whatever. Have fun with that. And he's like, well, wait a minute. The new headmaster of our school is her father, and she will be moving here. She is staying with my aunt, Helen Rosmond, played by Louise Fletcher. And so he's like, that's who I'm going to conquest. And then, so they find out about her move and all that. And this is where we get our little bit of a bet that is made by Catherine and Sebastian. So pretty much what the bet is that Catherine states, okay, you can go and do that with Annette. If you can bed her, then guess what? You can bed me. As long as you can prove that you had sex with her and lost her virginity to you, that's fine. That's if you win. If I win, I get your prized car.
Which is a night. What he says somewhere in the movie, 1956 Jaguar Roadster.
Love that. But yeah, so this
Black
is
1956 Jaguar Roadster.
Exactly. Really cute, really wonderful. It also comes into the end as well. So anyway, so that was their bet that they made. And then so she says, like, happy hunting, Sebastian. And so, yeah, that's the bet that's made. So pretty much, if you can fuck Annette, you can fuck me. If you don't fuck her, then I get your car.
Basically, is
pretty
what
much.
The wager is, yeah.
So then he heads over to his aunt's house. His aunt, like I said, is played by Louise Fletcher. Crazy bitch from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Flowers in the Attic.
Yep.
And he's doing some shooting, which I love. He's just shooting stuff in the air. And I love how he's like, oh, fuck me. And he's just like, Aunt Helen!
Yeah.
And it's so silly. We see that Annette is riding horses with Helen. And then Annette and Sebastian are talking. So they like walk up to their big, huge mansion that they have.
Right.
And then he's talking to her about her article, being like, how could you like say something about something you haven't even experienced? And she's just like, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know.
And I think in this part too that she says to him that she's been warned about him. Yes,
exactly. So she isn't impressed by Sebastian. So you see that first off. She's just like, yeah, you know, it's going to take more than just, you know, saying this, that, and the other to get, you know, with me or whatever or whatever. But she also hints at the fact that a friend has been telling her about Sebastian.
Right.
We don't know who it is quite yet. So we're kind of like, I wonder who this is.
And he's trying to deduct who it is, too.
He is. So then we get...
Sebastian don't play around.
He does not. So anyway, we get our intro to Ronald. And he's played by Sean Patrick Thomas, who would be in Can't Hardly Wait. He was in Save the Last Dance. A bunch of different things. Wonderful actor. So we get introduced to him. He's a music teacher. He's a music student. And he's teaching Cecile cello lessons. And we see that they get really close together. And it's like, ooh, okay. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar walks in on them. And she kind of sees, oh, well, there's something going on here. Okay, got it. And so that's one part. So that's the one part we have where it's like, okay, this is giving Catherine an idea of like, oh, so she and the music teacher are into something.
Her plotting. Her never-ending plotting is always going on in her head. So she's figuring up something she can do.
We then get into the intro to Blaine, played by Joshua Jackson. He is in Sebastian's in his room, and I think he's either is a drug dealer. He's either like
because he's like isn't he like rolling like something?
He's like rolling weed, and he's like rolling it into joints, which is kind of fun. But anyway, so him with Blaine, and then you know Sebastian's talking to him, being like, "I'm trying to figure out who this would be. Who might she be talking to?" Da da da. Like, well, who else does he know in Kansas City, Kansas? Well, Greg, who's played by Eric Mabius. He's all like, well, isn't he like with somebody or like, isn't he dating somebody? And Blaine's all like, well, something tells me that like that breakup wasn't really that much of a matter of his because let's just say he's a football player, Greg is, and he apparently likes the tight ends both on and off the field, if anything. And this is where we find out about, you know, I've said the word, but like, this is where we find about Blaine and Greg's faggotry. That's literally in my notes. And so he's like, oh, great. Like, I'm going to hold this. Cause, you know, Sebastian's just like, oh shit. Like, you know, all right, cool. This is where Sebastian pretty much asks Blaine to help expose Greg, which it's not cool to out people, y'all. Don't do it. But this is a movie. So whatever. Right. It was a different time. And we get our intro to Greg where he's in his room and he's like saying like, suck it, bitch, or whatever. He's like with his like jock friends or whatever. So we get his intro to that. So yeah, we get that, you know, Blaine is there. They're going to expose Greg pretty much, but that'll come up a little bit later. Then we get into our iconic scene, if you want to talk about it.
Well, wasn't there another iconic scene where he says something, not iconic, but what Blaine says about Greg?
Oh, yes, he does. So he does talk about how, like, he came into my room and did this, that, whatever, and I only let it happen because man has a mouth like a Hoover. And I appreciate that. That is so funny to me. I love that. But yeah, and then I also love, I also love the scene where Sebastian I think is left and Blaine calls Greg and he's just like, Gregory? And it's so funny to me too. But yeah, so we have that one little iconic line that I think is really funny. You don't get it until you're older. You're like, oh, got it.
Yeah.
He's good at that dick sunken, y'all. And we're like, hey, good for him. But this is our first iconic scene that Sarah was talking about a little earlier.
Yes, the Central Park kiss that won its 2000 MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah.
Just gonna...
So they're in the park and, you know, Cecile's talking about how, like, Court dumped some bulimic head case or whatever, who is Catherine. Yep. And then, like, Catherine pulls her hair.
Oh, yeah, because she's flushing it, yeah.
It's, like, really funny. Yeah. It's so stupid. But then we have the French kiss that happens, and it's just her, like we were talking about earlier. It's Cecile pretty much saying, like, I never kissed anyone like that, da-da-da. Like, how do you do that? And Sarah Michelle Gellar, fucking Catherine's all like, oh, like, well, how do you think girls learn? And we'll do this and whatever. And we have this really kind of male gazy kind of thing going on, I guess. But, it was good for what it was.
I'm sure all the guys, teenage boys loved it.
Which is why it won Best Kiss, probably.
Because, two attractive women are kissing.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, again, it also kind of plays into the, being bisexual or, liking girls. Like,
and I'll also get into that too, right? But then also, this is
people
Catherine.
Watching this at a poignant age, in their life. Yeah,
absolutely. And then Catherine's also planting the betrayal seed for Cecile, because Cecile is all like, oh, well, I don't love Sebastian or whatever. I love Ronald.
Right.
Or whatever. And she's talking about how she hides these letters from him in her dollhouse. And she... Giving
Catherine literally...
Yeah. And Catherine's even saying,
on a plate,
give this to me. So it's just her planting that seed. That's all it is.
Yeah. Because it is never ending up in her mind.
It's never ending up in her mind. She's like, give me these, copies.
She's always continuously plotting.
Pretty much. Anyway, so then we have Annette at the big old house, and Sebastian's there. They're at the pool together, in the indoor pool. I think that was... because what happens is music comes up, and it's like this classical music that plays only in Annette's room, I think. She comes in and she sees Sebastian in this wheelchair and be like, oh, do you want to take a dip? Da-da-da. But then he turns the music to another song that's very well known in this movie, which is, I believe it's Love Fool by the Cardigans, which I
actually... Yeah. I forgot that song was in this movie, and then when he played it, I was like, oh, I love this song.
I love it too.
They play it, so I definitely had that in my...
in your notes.
Rewatching it, I had it in my notes, because I forgot that... because, that song, it's a banger, and it still holds up to this day.
It's still fun.
If I hear it on the radio, or if I hear it on my phone,
Love me.
Yeah, it's a good song. And I forgot that it was in that.
It was, yeah. Because
I will give you this right now. There's about 3 very popular songs that are in this movie.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely one of them.
That's definitely
the first one. And then there's the iconic one in the one part, and then the very end of it has...
Oh, of course. We'll get to it.
But yes, Love Fool was a very... I forgot that was in there, so it was...
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
When I heard it, I was like, oh, I like this song.
So then Annette and Sebastian are at the pool, and then Annette is all like... we then have, hey, do you want to take a dip? Be like, okay, I'll do it. Whatever, that's fine. So we see Reese Witherspoon, Annette, she leaves, and then she comes back. Okay. And she's just like, okay, I'm walking in. She's like, Sebastian. And we have this shot. This shot is so funny to me because of just how it's set up.
And honestly, iconic.
It's iconic. Where we see Ryan Phillippe, he is in the corner. Apparently, he's drying his hair or something.
Or getting water out of his ears
or something. But his just full ass is out.
But he ain't wearing nothing.
And it's
so you just see his ass, and of course,
there is
a bare dude's ass. You're like, okay, but again, it still holds up.
I remember watching that, and I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Right.
There's also a wonderful YouTube video if you want to watch it. It's by the channel Movie Bitches, and they're really funny. And they just show this scene over and over again. It's just really funny because the one girl, Avril, thinks it's really funny, just how it's set up. Because it is really silly. There's steam going on, whatever. Right. But then, of course, the other guy, Andrew, who's a gay guy, he talks about just that scene. It's just gays across the board. Love that scene.
Right. And then he turns around, so clearly, audience can't
we don't see his dick, but she sees his dick.
Right. She turns over and he's like, yeah, whatever he says. And then she's like, oh, okay. Then she kind of turns, and then he jumps in the pool. Obviously, he doesn't put anything on.
He doesn't.
He just jumps in the pool.
He even says he's just like, can you turn around so I can put on my bathing suit? And you see, you're just like, you can put your bathing suit on. I can see that. What are you talking about?
So that was funny.
So good.
But I think that's always a scene I've remembered because of the shot, and then they were talking in the in the
absolutely. Pool. So then they do that, but then again, she's not impressed by him really. Right. She's just talking about this person's told me about this, that, the other. She even quotes one of the letters and all this, and she's just like, well, again, you're not gonna get me, whatever. And then she just swishes out of there. And she's looking fabulous.
Like, damn it!
Looking fabulous in that little bathing suit she has on.
Little teal looking color, yeah.
It's cute. She's wet, so you see her kind of butt a little bit, but so that's for the boys, that's for the men in there, the straight men, but But it was all for Ryan Phillippe in the ass, though. Anyway,
that's for everybody.
Speaking of gay stuff, so then we move on to after he gets rebuffed, we see that Sebastian goes over to. Do you know whose house it is? He goes to. I don't remember actually.
Oh, it's Is it
Blaine's house?
It's Blaine's house because I'm pretty sure when he was doing the scene with him when he was talking to him while he was like rolling the.
Oh, they were in the same place.
He was like, I'll have the door unlocked or whatever.
Got it. You're right. This is why I have you here, okay? Because I don't remember all this shit.
I don't remember crap.
Anyway, so Greg and Blaine, they're in bed together, and I think Greg says something about baby, and then Sebastian's just like, baby. Okay. And anyway, so he exposes them. They're caught in bed on all this. And
he
so
takes the
blanket off. These two shirtless men. Listen, this is also for the gays too, because they're both really attractive. And so, Greg's all like, hey.
And Blaine had the blonde hair in the movie.
He did. He also had that.
Joshua Jackson usually had the brown.
He did.
So it was a little bit different.
There was a time where I think on Dawson's Creek he had the blonde. And he also had the blonde. I never watched
Dawson's Creek, so I don't know.
I don't know, but I did. But and our friend Barbie, shout out Barbie. I think you watched Dawson's Creek, and I think it's
our second shout out to this.
Oh, we love you. But anyway, so he also had an Urban Legend too. You still need to watch Urban Legend. Okay. But anyway, so but I love the way that he looks in that because it's just really funny.
This is completely off topic. I am sorry.
That's fine.
Because I literally, as soon as you just were talking about him, I just thought about something.
What?
So earlier, when we were talking about what Reese Witherspoon has done, Legally Blonde, the show she's done, the movie she's done, I just remembered that there is actually another show she did probably about 2 years ago. It was on Hulu, and it was called Little Fires Everywhere, I think. Okay, yeah. Yes, that was, again, this is kind of off topic, but kind of ties in.
It does. We'll make it work.
I promise. She plays a mom in this, and I think she has 4 kids. Uh-huh. And guess who the dad is?
Joshua Jackson.
It is. I forgot.
Hell yeah.
I didn't even put honestly when me and my husband watched it, we try and watch things together.
Yeah.
And sometimes I like stuff and he's not interested at all, and other times I watch stuff so we watched that I think over quarantine, honestly. I think it was 2020 it came out. It had Kerry Washington, Reese Witherspoon, all that. Anyway, she has 4 kids. They are well off. They're like a rich family. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even put 2 and 2 together when I was watching that about 2 years ago that Joshua Jackson plays her husband in the show and she's the wife and they both work, all that good stuff. But yeah, I did not. That's just so funny that you said that. I just was like, wait a minute, Reese was in that. And I was like, I just tied it. So that's actually, they did this movie in 1999 and this was what?
20 years later.
20 years later. And
anyway, but that's pretty cool.
Sorry, that's a fun fact that just came up.
It's all good, no worries. But so Greg is like pleading like, hey, don't expose me, da 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 da. And so he's like, all right, I believe you, right. All this. I love Joshua Jackson where he's just like doing his nails or whatever. He's just like,
he's just filing
he's just like pretty much. And he's just like, the kid can hardly, without grocery list. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
It's just so funny. Like just the way he looks is like really fun. Yeah. And then we never see him again after this scene, which is unfortunate. But
who?
Joshua Jackson. We don't ever see him again, really.
No?
Not really. I wish
I'm not sure about Greg because you
see Greg again, but you don't see Joshua Jackson. Yeah. That's unfortunate. But anyway, so then we got Greg and Annette on the beach because at this point we find out.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that Greg and Annette have known each other. He's the Gregster. Okay, great nickname, dude.
I'm not going to lie. When he said that, I was like, that's pretty corny.
Yeah, that's pretty corny. But anyway, so they're on the beach.
That would not be my nickname.
No, it would not. But this is a different time, Sarah. But anyway, so like they're on the beach and pretty much like he's been told by Sebastian to like talk him up, do well, and find out who was talking about him. And so he does all this.
In turn, that he won't tell him about
gay, right?
About Blaine.
About Blaine and doing all that,
and him going on both sides.
Exactly. So then you have this whole scene. He does, and anyway, so he calls next to like this like shower with these like shirtless men in the back, which I'm just like, what happened after this? Because I feel like some things happened,
right? And
just say
payphones. I mean, come on now.
And payphones.
Phone booths, whatever.
Exactly. So, so Greg's talking up Sebastian to Annette. And she ends up giving the information to Greg of who was talking about Sebastian. And that's what he's calling Sebastian about on his car phone.
Who was it?
And who was it but other than our wonderful Christine Baranski, Bunny Caldwell, was talking shit on him. Pretty much, we find this out.
She's a shit stirrer.
She is a shit stirrer. She's a shit kicker and a shit stirrer. Like Dawn Davenport, Divine, whatever. This is John Waters' state account. I love him. But anyway, so we find out about that. Anyway, so then Catherine is then watching a video of Ronald and Cecile, which she put in like a weird nanny cam or some shit because she's just watching it back. And it's like Selma Blair, Cecile, she does a handstand where pretty much like her underweared vagina is just in front of his face.
And he's like, okay.
It's like, okay. And then, anyway, so we have that, and then that video ends out with a peace out or whatever. It's so weird.
And Catherine's like, okay, and this guy dumped me for you. What does she have? What is wrong with me?
Yeah, exactly.
Is what I got from that. She's
pretty
like,
much. Exactly. So then Catherine has watched that video, but then Sebastian comes in and tells Catherine about, hey, it was Mrs. Caldwell was talking about me.
And now she's like, I want to come in on your plan.
Exactly. Now I want to come in on your plan.
Seducing Cecile.
Exactly. So, okay, now I'm still going to go after Annette. I still want to have her, but I'm now going to like do this stuff with Cecile.
Because fuck Miss Caldwell.
Because fuck Miss Caldwell. Love you, Christine Baranski, but fuck Miss Caldwell. Though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then in the silly scene, I think it's kind of silly. Catherine is just like in the lap of Sebastian and getting a massage from him and grinding up on him, just talking about, you know, all this stuff or whatever. And it's like turning him on because he's a guy.
Of course.
And so like
a
teenage guy. And all of this is happening. And then, you know, this is where they come to the agreement that like, okay, I'm going to seduce Cecile, all this stuff now. And then she just at the end of this is like, down boy.
Okay,
and he's just like,
bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, get off me now. You know, whatever. Very much that. But
little shout out to Romy Michelle.
A little shout out to Romy Michelle, exactly. But then Sebastian's just like, oh, come on. You know, and it's like, yeah, dude, you're left with blue balls. I'm sorry, but it's also your stepsister, though, bro. So like, I don't know. Anyway, so you have that whole thing. So then Sebastian calls Annette because he wants to talk to her and all that. They call and they talk a little bit. They don't really talk about very much, though, but...
Oh, also...
Yeah.
Just a kind of a note on it. I'm pretty sure this is the scene that they're talking, and the phone, you know, when he rings her, the phone she has in the room, I was like, I love that phone.
It's a cute phone.
It's like an old, like, timey, like...
Yeah,
obviously you don't see any phones like that anymore, but, like, because I guess the house she was staying in, I don't know, it was just kind of
That's
fun.
You're allowed to...
It was just, like, a fun, like she has it up to her, and you're like, oh, that's not like a normal phone you would see in the 90s. And I just liked it, so.
Yeah. So you have that kind of thing.
She answered.
I love it. It's nice and cute. And her room is really nice, too, at the Rosamund estate. Anyway, so then you have Catherine and Miss Caldwell. So Catherine has called Miss Caldwell pretty much, being like, I have something to tell you about Cecile. So they go to this clothing store, and she's all like, I think that Cecile has an inappropriate relationship with her music teacher. And she's just like, Ronald? Like, what? What do you mean?
Right.
She's just so young, and he's so black. And then she's like, brown sugar. I mean, no sugar. All this or whatever.
I'm trying to get, I think like the lady at the store is like,
it's a guy.
The guy is trying to give her like coffee or something.
Yeah. She's like...
She's baffled.
She's baffled or whatever. And pretty much this is where Catherine is like talking about... Pretty much like Catherine's talking about like, you know... you need to keep this discreet, all of that. And then Miss Caldwell's like, don't worry, I will. I can't thank you enough for this, whatever.
Because Catherine's got her, you know.
Yeah. She's got her manipulated.
Yeah, she's got her manipulated, and she will believe anything she says.
Pretty much. And so then
she don't know the real her.
She doesn't. And so then Mrs. Caldwell goes to her penthouse, her very nice apartment, and confronts Ronald and Cecile.
Because he happens to be there giving her lessons. And then Cecile's just like, oh, no, like, no. And then so she runs to her room or whatever. And then you have Ronald. She says, like, you know, I took you from the streets, and this is how you repay me. And he's like, the streets? I live on 59th and Park. Like, what are you talking about, lady? I know. She was like, wasn't on the streets, lady.
Wasn't on the streets. Like, I don't know about that. I wasn't busking for money.
Screw you is basically what she gets.
Pretty much what she says, yeah. And then she's like, he's like, thank you for your hospitality, all this. And he just like leaves out of there. He just says, the black man is gone. The black man is gone. It's so silly. And then she's also saying like, you know, oh, don't give me that racist crap or whatever. Me and my husband gave to Colin Powell like 3 different terms or whatever. So I'm just like, She's like sort of undercover, kind of maybe racist. I don't know, but like whatever. Anyway, you're just like, all right, cool, whatever. Right. Then you have Ronald, Sebastian, and Catherine all together because what they have now done is that they have letters from Cecile.
They're
still plotting. This whole movie's about plotting.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's all it is.
Till the end.
They have letters from Cecile to Ronald. Whether or not they're real or not, I guess they kind of are.
Okay, but I also was watching this and I was wondering.
Yeah.
So, as we've kind of established, Cecile is sheltered, doesn't feel like she could probably express herself too much in writing.
Kind of awkward, yeah.
So, she's writing letters to Ronald.
Yes.
So, was she actually writing them and then giving them to Ronald? Or was Catherine intercepting them and then writing them to Ronald?
Something tells me that's the case.
Because that's what I always kind of figured. Because I'm like, Cecile would just probably be like, I think you're cute.
Exactly. She's not going to say much.
Blah, 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 blah. But like, as far as like romance and like real whatever Shakespeare type stuff you think it's going to be, I feel like Catherine
probably
would do this. So I just was
because I think even earlier when they were making out or whatever, wasn't it the whole thing of like, I have these letters from Ronald and she gets the copies and it's probably a matter of like, oh, well, bitch, let me go and like take these and then...
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one, okay.
But anyway, so Ronald, Sebastian, and Catherine, they're all together. She's, they're showing Ronald these like letters. I didn't know how she felt about me, right. da-da-da-da-da. Be like, you should write something back to her and then we'll make sure she gets it. So that was like one of the scenes. Since he can't see
her anymore. He's not supposed to.
Exactly. And so she can't see him. Sebastian can't see Mrs. Caldwell either. So it's a whole thing with that. And that gets into it in a minute. Because she hates him. And so there's that. Ronald then leaves, and then they're left together to kind of plot about, like, we're destroying a young girl's life because they're about to call Cecile. We're going to get to that in a minute. We have the iconic scene, I think, for some people, where it's Catherine's speech about, like, do you think I like being Little Miss Mary Sunshine 24/7?
Right.
I'm the Marsha fucking Brady of the Upper West Side, and sometimes I want to kill myself. So you just find out that she's so tired of like putting on this facade, but she has to. Right. Otherwise, like, what do I do?
Right, exactly.
And this is why she's empowering herself. So even though like Catherine's she's supposed to be an unlikable character, but it's kind of like, well, she's in high society and she's like doing all this or whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, people, I think, sometimes really like Catherine for that, for a speech like that or whatever. So then Sebastian and Catherine, they call Cecile, and Cecile just, like, answers the phone crying because she's just like, oh, no, And then Catherine's like, okay, Cecile, you have to stop crying. And then Sebastian is like, okay, Cecile, so here's what we're going to do. And so Cecile takes one of these big-ass dolls that she has. She's a doll girl, apparently. Yeah. And she puts it in the bed. And she's sneaking out. She takes a taxi she's just rich, so she just take one. And so she sneaks out and she comes to Sebastian's house. And so this whole scene is like, she gets a drink from him and she's like, this sure doesn't taste like a Long Island. He's like, it's from New York. And so, which I thought was really funny. And so...
No, it doesn't. He doesn't say that.
Yes, he does.
Well, he does, but he says it a little differently, because I thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, this sure doesn't taste like an iced tea. And he's like, it's from Long Island.
Oh, you're right.
Because, like, it's funny because, like, again, watching that when I was younger, I was like,
you
what?
Don't get it.
Don't understand it until you realize that, like, a Long Island iced tea is an alcoholic beverage.
It's a mix of alcohol.
So she's thinking it's iced tea, and that's what's funny.
It's funny. But anyway, so, so she meets with him, and then he's all like, oh, I'll take some pictures of you, too bad that you're not sexy. She's like, I can be sexy. She like tries to be sexy or whatever. And she's all like, pretty much like she's seduced by Sebastian. This is the one I remember from being a kid, because he's like, Cecile, all I want to do is just give you a kiss. And she's all like, okay, well, I mean, that's fine, I guess.
Right.
And then this is also in Dangerous Liaisons too. This is a scene in there, not completely, but like it's mentioned. Mm-hmm. And she's like, wait, what are you doing? Like, he's undoing her like sweatpants or whatever she has on, and he's like, Cecile, promise is a promise. Like, I just said I want to give you a kiss, but I want to kiss you down there. And be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that definitely would have went over.
Goes over a kid's head.
A kid's head, yeah.
And so
you watch it when you're older, you're like, got it.
Oh, okay.
That's what that means.
And then it's funny, she just says like, that tickles, and she just is like, ugh.
Thanks, yeah.
And so then be like, been there, girl. Go back to Cecile's room the next morning, and Christine Baranski goes in there, and we see the doll. The doll's just like, I want to do something or whatever. I don't know. It apparently talks. And so then Cecile comes in the room and her hair is kind of like all a mess. And she's just like, Jesus Christ, where were you at? And then Cecile's just like, shopping. Like 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning.
Right.
And she's all like, oh, well, Christine Baranski's all like, oh, well, like you need to get dolled up because, there's something going on at the Roseman's today. I want you to look your best. We're having brunch at the Roseman's or whatever. So she's like, okay, fine, whatever. So then we are at brunch at Auntie's house is what I called it in my notes because they go to brunch where Annette and Cecile are eating together. And then we see Helen Roseman there, and Sebastian's there. And then, like, because of her whole ordeal she just had, like, Cecile just, like, kind of runs away. Right, because she's like, well, he does, like, have, like, the tennis racket, and he does. He's, like, being bad with it. And then she's like, I'm gonna go. She just runs away. Right. And then Annette is like, this was... Yeah. Annette does, like, she's like, she's interesting. She's strange. She's strange. Yeah. And then we see that... she is clueless to everything. Really is. Not in a bad way. She's just obviously not in on everything. Yeah, exactly. So then we see that good old Helen, she was talking to her friend or whatever. She's like, oh, they don't have any volunteers at the retirement home. And, I have theater tickets. I can't go. Oh, I have a great idea. Why don't you kids go for me? And they're like, yeah, sure. Why not? So I watched that yesterday, right? I'm like, I don't think I would be very happy that somebody's like, here, go do this. Yeah, here, go volunteer at the retirement home that I'd be like, go to. Okay. Right. And so then they go to the volunteer at the retirement home where one of the old people is just like spraying a bird and the bird is just saying, stop it. And we are introduced to the nurse played by Elena Reed Hall. Do you know who that is? No. She was on Sesame Street back in the day. She's since passed away. Yeah, she was on there, and she was also on the TV show 227. She's a very well-known sitcom actress, kind of, sort of, as well. But she's in this movie. She plays the nurse. Cool. And so the nurse brings Sebastian over to... Do you remember the old lady's name that he was with? Miss Sugarman. Miss Sugarman. Okay, so so Sebastian gets introduced to Miss Sugarman, and she born 1917. I love that. But anyway, so she the actress, of course. Yeah, she's in the state of dementia, so she doesn't actually know what's going on. Yeah. So he's just telling her like, "Hey, we played backgammon 3 times, and you won each time, and then I fucked your daughter." And then she's like, "Excuse me?" And he's just like, "Would you care for some water?" Which I thought was really funny. And so the nurse and Annette just like check out what's going on and whatever. So this is just kind of like him trying to like, and you can see Annette. Like Annette's like, oh, isn't that nice? So then we have Sebastian and Annette. They're driving home, or they're driving back to the aunt's house, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he's all like saying something about. Like, my sister just showed me a picture of Paul Rudd. He does not age. What the hell? Sorry, it's all good. We are completely random. It's fine. But anyway, so, but yeah, so, Sebastian's all talking about, like, oh, Miss Sugarman, it was nice to, spend time with her. She's cool. And that's just, like, really? Like, an old lady is cool? Like, what are you talking about? Really? And, yeah, really. And so... Don't try and fool me. Exactly. But then, and that's just like, what's your problem, Miss Sebastian? You're just too serious. And so in this case, we then have the scene where she's trying to make him laugh. She's making funny faces. Yeah, funny faces and all this kind of stuff. But it's just showing that, like, they obviously have chemistry because they were literally, like, boning and were in a relationship when they were doing this. But, like, they do have really good chemistry because this is something that you would want to do with your significant other. Yeah. Like, And I think I also made a note in here when I was watching yesterday. And I obviously remember this scene from just watching it. Mm-hmm. If you ever watch a movie, sometimes you forget little scenes. But this is one of those scenes you remember because, she's doing the funny faces and trying to make him laugh. And he's laughing. He's telling her to stop it. And in this moment, before, he wants to conquest, he wants to bed her. He doesn't really, okay, whatever. But in this moment, I believe, is where he falls in love with her. Yeah, I think so too. Now he's like, okay, yes, I did want to bet her, obviously, because she's a challenge. Mm-hmm. And I think in this moment, him laughing at her because she's being silly. I think in that moment that he fell in love with her. This is why I needed a female perspective on it too, because I can agree with you on that. Like, I've always thought that this is the part where he's like looking over at her and. Yeah, exactly. I think that's where he fell in love with her. Absolutely. And it became not just the bet's kind of like now off the table. Like now, yes, he wants to have something with her now, not just
I'm going to bet her because...
Exactly.
Whatever. Because of my bet with my stepsister.
So anyway, so Catherine and Cecile, we go into them because Cecile's just like doing whatever in her room or in one of the rooms of her place. And Catherine's come over and she's all like, how are you doing, Cecile? And she's just like, not good. Be like, something happened last night and it involves your brother and blah, blah, blah. And all this. And she's just like, last night he came to my house I went to his house and he took advantage of me. And she's just like, okay, so Catherine's like, okay, so you came to his house and he did this to you, is that right? Well, no, not really. So he made you give him a blowjob. Like, is that it or whatever?
No, not really, yeah.
And then she's just like, well, I didn't want to do it at first, but like, then I was like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. And then she like whispers to her, being all like, he like took my pants down and he like started to spell the alphabet with his tongue and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And whatever. And then she's just like, and then I just like got really hot. Now I'm not a woman, obviously, but she's like, I got really hot. And then it was just like, explosions. and then Catherine's just like, Cecile, you had an orgasm. And again, I don't know what a female orgasm was, but I mean, some Blair just paint a picture, which I appreciate.
She's like, okay, that's what that was.
Exactly. So then Catherine's all like, listen, Cecile, practice makes perfect. Don't you want to make Ronald happy? And she's like, well,
because she's forever plotting.
She's forever plotting, and she's like, but I don't love him. I love Ronald. But don't you want to make him happy? I think you should, practice makes perfect. I think you should do it with as many people as you can.
Right.
Which is like kind of what she wanted already.
Her to be a slut, yeah.
Right, which is what she wanted in general, because she was like, she's going to be the premier tramp of whatever.
Right.
So it was like, okay, cool. It's just that nobody talks about it. Cecile, everyone does it, but nobody talks about it. And then Cecile's all like, so it's like a secret society, right? She's like, Catherine's like, yeah, sure, secret society.
And then she, like, when she closes the door, she's like, fucking idiot.
Yes, exactly. And then Cecile's just like, cool, secret society. And she's just like dancing to herself.
So
God, I love you, Selma Blair. I really do. But anyway, so that was that. That was kind of fun. And then you see... The next thing we have is Cecile and Sebastian. They're in bed because, again, she wants to be practice makes perfect. So she's fucking Sebastian now. And so then Sebastian, though, after this is post-coitus, I guess. But, like, she's, like, eating cherries or whatever the hell and whatever. And then she's like, I like it when I'm on top. And she, like, gets on top of him.
And he's like,
he pushes her down. So good.
And he's like not with it. He's just like,
he's
whatever.
like
writing. I think he's writing in his journal.
He is, and he's like, "This is quiet time." Blah blah blah.
Right. And he's over it. Like he doesn't want to deal with her anymore. He's done. He was like, I had my fun, and now he wants to focus because Cecile, now he's in love.
Yeah.
With
and Cecile says that to him.
Annette.
It's about this, Annette girl. You're in love with her, aren't you?
Yeah.
Be like, well, don't worry, I'm not in love with you either, and all this kind of stuff. Right. And so, like, Sebastian just like goes to take a shower. She's just like, do you want any company? And then she's just like, rude. As she goes back to eating her cherries or whatever, which is really funny. So then you see Catherine and Sebastian. They're, I think, at the aunt's house, and they're spying on Annette with these binoculars while she's reading a book.
Yeah.
And I think it was Catherine who says, little girl or whatever was like upset by the big bad book or something like that.
Yeah.
He's just like, shut up.
Oh, okay. I guess she was like crying or something.
She was crying to it. We don't even know what the book was, really. Like, you can only imagine what kind of book it was.
I didn't look that far into it,
I didn't look that far either. But anyway, so then they're spying on her, and then Catherine and Sebastian talk, and the thing is that this is, I think, when Sebastian's saying, like, that he's falling for her, and he doesn't want to fall for her, because that's not the point, but he can't help but fall for her.
Right.
And then Catherine says some bullshit to him. I don't really remember what she says to him about it. But she's just kind of like, okay, like, whatever. If you're going to fall for her, then whatever.
Yeah.
So then you have Annette and Sebastian under the tree. Mm-hmm. So he goes outside because he's just kind of like, okay, whatever, Catherine. So he's like going outside and they're talking. And, she's all like, Annette's like, do you really want to know why I can't do this? I thought we were just said we were going to be friends and all this stuff. It's because I don't trust myself with you, Sebastian. That's why. And then he's just like, but why? Like, why wouldn't you do something with it? Because he's falling for her,
right.
But she's not falling for him yet. So it's really just kind of one-sided at this point, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So then Sebastian and Annette, so we see Annette in her room and Sebastian comes in and...
But no.
What happens?
They're under the tree or whatever, like what she's reading. I'm pretty sure he kisses her.
He does kiss her. You're right. You're very right about that. And this is when she then says, like, you know, do you want to know why? Like
they're kissing, like they're pretty full. I mean, not I want to say like full on, but you know, he's kissing her, and then she's just kind of like she kind of stops it. Yeah.
But then later on that night, though, it's Annette and Sebastian in her room.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this is him like saying like, hey, look, like this is just different. I'm not used to this, but I do want to make sure I'm not pretty much fucking it up, right? And so that's what he's saying. And this is Annette saying, listen, she locks the door and she's just like,
right.
All right, like I'm gonna let you do this. She takes down we don't ever see her boobs, but like she's like letting herself be open to him.
Yeah, like he has the opportunity to have sex with her and he just kind of like looks at her, and I think it's because he wants it to be
special. He
doesn't want it to be right there and you know, do it like this. So she's kind of like, okay.
All right, well, I put myself out to you or whatever, but I'm putting myself, And then she leaves the next morning. He's still asleep, and then he's woken up by Catherine.
Yeah, she leaves. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Catherine and Sebastian talk, because they're talking about, like, you know, well, have you bedded her yet? Like, have you had sex with her yet? And you're like, no, not yet.
Like, what's the status on it, basically?
Exactly. And then Catherine and Sebastian talk or whatever, and this is when Catherine is talking about, like, you know, well, she left and she's going to this place or whatever, and, you know, that's what it is. Like, you know, she told your aunt, you know, about this, whatever, because she's always plotting. But then Sebastian's all like, all right, well, fine, then I'm just gonna go. So Catherine's there, and then Sebastian just leaves. We see him driving, and then we see like how Annette, she has her stuff together and all this, and she's at Penn Station. She's gonna go up to wherever the hell her friend's parents are.
Yeah.
And she goes to Penn Station, and it's the iconic scene.
Very, very iconic. I will say this.
It's so good.
I will say this. I think if you were to ask somebody who's seen this movie, what is the scene you remember most in this movie throughout the whole movie, I would probably say a very, very good chunk of it would be this scene.
Yeah. That or the kiss or something. Yeah, for sure. They
would 100% maybe. I mean, I know for me, this is a very iconic scene. This is what I remember the most. Yes, the movie all in its glory is great, but this scene where the scene that's coming up that we're about to say is very iconic.
Yeah, so like Annette is on the bottom of the escalator. She's going up to her train or whatever, and then you see Sebastian's there. He's wearing this really nice blue shirt. It looks like it's out of a music video, I always kind of thought.
And the one and only Colorblind by
Counting Crows, yep.
The Counting Crows is playing.
And it's really good.
While she, and it's all slow motion too. It is. Has her bag. She has a bag over her shoulder. She has a suitcase, and she's just kind of looking, you know, a little, you know, she's looking a little sad. Yeah. Looking just a little, you know, looking around, and the audience is aware, kind of like he's already, you know, he's wanting to see her. So you hear the opening things of Colorblind. And she's kind of like looking around and all that, and then you see him. He comes into view in the next, like the little other next shot. She comes up. She hasn't seen him yet, and then it pans back to her while the song's still playing, and she's kind of looking, and then she kind of like makes eyes with that he's at the top. He's just him, you know. Don't really see people walking around him. He's just him, and then they lock eyes, and then she.
Yeah, she's impressed. She says she's impressed.
She's impressed.
And impressed enough where she's like, you know what? Let's fucking do it. Because he even says, here's another good thing. Then he says, well, I'm in love.
Yeah. She's like, I'm impressed that he did that. And he goes, well, I'm in love. And then they do this, like, I think a very iconic kiss scene in the movie.
It's really good.
The really nice, I'm very big into... the movies types I like rom-coms, which is definitely not a rom-com, but I do like the love story type movies. Whether they be this would definitely fall under a drama, not like a dramedy. It would definitely be more of a drama. But my romantic comedies, you know, you always love a good kiss scene.
Yeah, if you're into those, yeah.
And so yes, this is like a very iconic kiss scene at the top of the escalator. With Counting Crows playing Colorblind. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's perfect.
It's pretty good. I'm not even gonna lie.
And then the next scene is them
having sex. They finally fuck. Finally.
And it's just, you know, it's them, you know,
Yeah, they're fucking, dude. And he even asks, like, are you okay?
Yeah, and you can
really
tell
nice.
that, like, it's not just to, like, conquer her. It's like,
yeah,
you know...
He loves her.
He loves her. She loves him.
There are rumors out there that they were actually having sex on film or whatever. That is not true. That did not happen. Yeah. First off, that's really ethically weird, number one. Although Short Bus is a great movie with unsimulated sex, but no. This is a studio movie. They always
have a way of making movies to make it look like they were doing, whatever.
But they look good. And plus, also, they weren't fully nude either.
And was the song still playing then?
I think it was.
I think it was, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it kind of plays into that scene. So it's a very iconic scene.
Really good. So he has his bells and whistles on, girl, because he's so happy.
He is very happy.
That he's just able to do this. He goes to the penthouse and he finds out, because he hears Catherine, who's kind of like moaning a little bit. Yeah. And then he like knocks on her door and she's just like, can you give me a minute? And we find out that Catherine, she's in her bed and he's just like, hey, what were you doing?
Yeah. Huh? Also, side note, when I was watching this, when she she's like, come in, and he like opens the door. Mm-hmm. Her walls, like the blue, teal. I mean,
so pretty.
Like, love that. Just again, kind of off subject, but like it's such a pretty.
This
color.
is part of the movie, damn it.
Yeah,
it's good. And like the crazy like curtains that they have and everything. Yeah. The movie bitches video I was talking about earlier, they definitely were like. I mean, they're just like vampires at this point. Right. This could very much be a vampire story.
It could have been a vampire story.
They're just like 400 years old. They've come on board with life. This is what they look like.
They could have done that, yeah.
It's so good.
But love the color of the room.
Yes. And then, so Sebastian finds out that Catherine is like pretty much fucking Ronald.
Right.
Because Ronald's literally like under her bed. Yeah. Just so
and he's
funny.
Like, hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up? And he like gathers his stuff and like runs out of the room.
He runs out of the room. He's just like, I gotta go.
He's like, I gotta...
Which pretty much happens in Dangerous Liaisons. I'm pretty sure that like Glenn Close is fucking with Keanu Reeves, so there's that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so then this scene we have is Sebastian rebuffs Catherine, and he's pretty much like, it's the iconic thing of just like, you know, she's horny. She didn't get to fuck Ronald, unfortunately.
Right.
And so. But pretty much Sebastian rebuffs her, and she's like, I want to fuck. And then he's all like, well, I don't want to right now. Right. And then he leaves, and she just throws something at her door.
Throws like the glass, yeah.
It's really good. But this is like Sebastian just saying, like, listen. And she's just like, fuck, you fell in love with her. God damn it.
Right.
Or whatever. So then they have another scene where she's in this like weird outfit that she has on. And it's Catherine and Sebastian. They're talking about their relationship and be like, what happened to us? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know? But they're talking about their relationship, and again, it's all that kind of going on. I don't really remember what they all say about their relationship in that scene. But then I have this moving on. It's not the Run Rabbit. It's not the Silly Rabbit one yet.
Yeah.
But it is, they're talking about their relationship and just how it is. And then Sebastian is just, he then moves into what I call his sad boy montage. Because he has like another one as well.
Sad boy, yeah.
Yeah, sad boy montage where he's just like walking around New York. He just looks sad or whatever.
I think no, maybe not. I think he's writing in his journal about everything.
Oh, he might be too.
That might be what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'll go with it. Oh, because here's what happens with this relationship. So they're talking about, Catherine and Sebastian are talking about the relationship. He has his little sad boy montage. And then we all know what happens next after this. He does go to her house or whatever.
Or who she's staying with.
Or who she's staying with. And she's showing him the room. Do you think we can be quiet? And all this. And this is where we get to the point. Or actually, maybe it was that Catherine...
No, I think this was like right after they did it. Like then
yeah.
He came over to her house and or wherever she was staying. Because she was staying at whoever's house they were.
Yeah.
And I think she wanted to like do it again with him.
Right.
But
I think when Catherine and him were talking, I think it was like saying pretty much like, you know, Sebastian, I really like you and blah, 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 blah. Because then that's why Annette and Sebastian in the scene break up.
Yeah.
And then they have the whole like breakup because he's like, there's somebody else, blah, 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 whatever. Because he's in love with his stepsister, I guess, and all this, which is so stupid.
She's fucked.
Because she's just manipulating him.
Right.
So anyway, but he breaks up. It's like a really good scene because they're obviously in a relationship together. So like apparently that slap that happens was like unplanned.
Yeah. So he basically tells her, he's like, I don't love you.
Yep. It was a conquest. All
like
this,
he just basically at the beginning of it, like how it was supposed to be, like he wasn't supposed to fall in love with her. She was a conquest. But then he's saying this to her, but he actually loves her. So it's like whatever. And then she slaps him, and then she's like, "Get out! Don't touch me!" Because he's like, you know, trying to hug her.
Don't touch me, Sebastian.
Yeah, and so really then he like she like kicks him out.
Yeah. So then that happens, and, everyone was like, all the girls in the audience are just like, oh, this is so hard.
Right.
Anyway, so then Catherine and Sebastian, so Sebastian comes back to Catherine.
Right.
And they're talking. And in my notes, I just said, and Catherine shows off how much of a bitch she is.
Right.
Because she pretty much tells him, she's just like, silly rabbit, you were just a toy to me, Sebastian.
Yeah.
And... I don't fuck losers. And she just goes on about it. Where she's just like, I made you break up with her pretty much. That's
like, the
pretty
woman
much
of
what
his
it was.
dreams, yeah.
Right. I just made you break up with her. Yeah. You thought you were going to get me, but nope, I don't fuck losers. It just shows, goddamn, Michelle Gellar, you're so good in this movie because, she just shows.
But again, you watch her in this movie and then you watch her. Okay, I've never seen Buffy, but whatever. But I know what she did last summer. She was a different character.
Oh, completely. She should have been the final girl. Anyway, sorry, but yeah, she just shows off that, and she just is drinking her little champagne, and you see that Sebastian is teared up and crying about it,
right?
Because that's fucked up. So I say that Sebastian's crushed by Catherine. He tries to see Annette, where we then see the mother of this friend of hers, I guess, because there's a party going on.
Yeah, in the place she's at.
And so he's just like, I want to see Annette. Can I see Annette? And she's all like, well, I'm entertaining right now. She's not here right now. And he's just like, Annette! Or whatever. And then he's just like, okay, well, if I can't see her, can you please make sure she gets this? Right. And she's like, yeah, sure. That's fine. I'll make sure she gets this. So
and then cut screen that she closes the door and she is there.
She is right there. Yeah, exactly. So then Sebastian gives Annette a letter. So it's a whole letter he's written out in another sad boy montage that we kind of see where he's just writing in his journal.
Right.
He's also writing
this
letter.
Sitting in the city and
exactly.
Whatever,
yeah. He's giving her a letter and his journal. So that's
which has everything.
So she has everything. She has his journal. She has the letter. All this that pretty much what happened. But then we're coming to near the end of the movie. What happens is Catherine decides to call up Ronald and is all like, Sebastian, he's just out of his mind. He hit me. And I just don't feel safe. I need you here, Ronald. Again, plotting. This whole movie's plotting.
Because Sebastian didn't do
anything to her at all. She was the one who did all of this. Right. This is where he redeems himself. This is where you're like, okay, Sebastian is in love with Annette. He breaks up with her because Catherine was being a bitch, and then Catherine's then just uber bitch to him, right? And lies on him. Yes, that God,
he hit her and he didn't.
Yep, exactly. And so Catherine calls Ronald, lies on Sebastian. Yep. And so then we get this is at night, and then so the next morning, I guess, Sebastian and Ronald they find each other.
Well,
so Sebastian's walking through the city.
He's walking through the city, and then Ronald's like I'll be there or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you just see he's in his black trench coat, Sebastian's in his black trench coat, and then you see him walking unsuspiciously, and then you see Ronald walking trying to find him
with a purpose,
and it's this. Whatever.
And then Annette's there. She kind of
and then Annette's all in white. She's in her
good.
her white three-quarter sleeve shirt and some capris. She's in all white, and so
pretty much Sebastian and Ronald.
No. Ronald comes. Yeah, Ronald I think sees him and just punches him.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, and Sebastian's like, "What the fuck was that about?"
And then Annette runs up and is all like, "Guys, stop!"
So they're fighting. Yeah. Sebastian's like, "Okay, you're gonna hit me. I'm gonna hit you back."
Right.
They're in a duel. They're in a brawl.
Exactly.
Mind you, watching this, just watching it this time, but when I watched it a few months ago, and before I'd watched it a few months ago, it had been a couple years since I watched it in full.
Yeah.
They were so dangerously close to the car.
I know, right?
I was like, what are they doing?
I know. So anyway, Sebastian and Ronald fight.
They're fighting.
Annette is trying to stop them, but then Annette gets kind of thrown into traffic a little
Patrick,
bit.
Does something and he accidentally pushes her, and she's basically, because they were so close to the traffic, she's in there, and she kind of gets her, she kind of falls, not unconscious or anything like that. She just kind of the way she comes down, she's kind of there, not laying there, but she's kind of sitting.
Yeah.
And then she props up, and then all of a sudden you see a taxi coming, full speed at her.
Uh-huh.
And Sebastian sees it, and Sebastian is just
he's just
oh my,
save her.
I love her. this is my girl. Like, this is my. I love this woman. I have to save her. Like, I cannot see her die.
Right.
And yeah, he pushes her out of the way to safety.
And then he gets hit by that taxi.
And the taxi basically hits him. You see him you see him fall in the windshield at the front. It shatters. Fall on top of the top of the taxi. And then bottom. And then it's like this whole thing. It's like a flip. Mm-hmm. And then that's it. They're like, and then he's kind of laying there.
Yeah.
And
exactly. So you have that, and he's dead.
The taxi driver.
Yeah.
Well, there's a good part in the scene that you're totally missing.
I'm totally missing it.
Yeah.
This is why I have it here.
Well, it's like you have to say it. So he gets hit by the taxi. Sad face. He's not quite dead yet. So,
all the girls in the audience are just crying.
Yeah. So the taxi hits him and stops. That wasn't a hit and run situation. He stops. So you see Ronald run over. Although this is what pissed me off. And I know they got to do it for the movie. It's like, how did they not have been fighting?
Right. Whatever. It's
whatever.
fine.
Who knows what they would have had to do? But anyway, this is how it ended in this movie. They didn't do swords. They didn't have a sword fight.
They did not.
This. So. Anyway, so Ronald runs over, Annette runs over, because Annette is okay because she was spared, because he took the hit of it, because that could have been her. And maybe she could have got killed on him,
Right, exactly.
on impact, because whatever. So she runs over to him, he runs over to her, or Ronald runs over, and then the taxi driver, I think you see him get out of the car and he runs over. And I'm like, was anybody calling 911?
I don't know.
But anyway, so you see, his eyes are open. He's not dead. His eyes are open. He's got, a little cut by his, lip. And he's got, a little, cut up by his, forehead. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh my God, Sebastian. She was runs over to him. Annette runs over to him. And he basically just tells her he loves her. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I love you, Annette. And she tells him that she loves him. Oh. And so they confess that they love each other. Yeah. And this wasn't obviously fake. He's saying he loves her. And she's like, I love you too. And then you kind of see the, maybe would you call that an aerial view?
It's an aerial view, yeah.
And then you could just kind of see him laying there, and then Ronald and then the taxi driver, and then just kind of everything stopped because this guy's laying in the road. And then the next scene you see, a sad face, is you see a picture of Sebastian knowing that you were at his funeral. So they profess their love for each other in that scene where he is going to die. He's not dead in that moment, but that next scene does tell you he dies, but they do confess that they love one another.
Which is so wonderful.
So he knew before he died that she loved him.
Yeah.
And she knew before he died that he loved her.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a very...
Beautiful, wonderful. All the girls are crying in the theater. I get it.
Right.
So then you have the ending of this movie, which is pretty much that
such an iconic ending.
It's such a good ending. It's so good.
So good.
Anyway, so the ending we have at Manchester Prep. We're finally at the fucking school.
After
all this time.
The movie's an hour and a half. And you're finally in the last 5 minutes.
Never been at the school, but we're finally at the school.
Right.
Before this funeral, like you were talking about, this memorial. Where apparently Catherine, being her step sibling, is the speaker at this memorial.
Gonna give a eulogy.
And so she's in the bathroom. She takes her little Coke cross out and snorts a little something.
She's got a little on her nose and she wipes it off.
She does, yeah.
You gotta clean that up.
Looking iconic. And then we see that who's also in the bathroom, who comes out of the stall, is Annette. Mm-hmm. And she's all like, oh, I didn't know this was in here. Da-da-da. And so... they're all like, oh, it's a shame about what happened to your stepbrother. And she's like, oh, did you know Sebastian? Be like, you could say that, whatever. And then Annette's all like, I know it sound trite or whatever, but anytime that I have some sort of struggle in my life, I just turn to God and he helps me or whatever. And so she leaves out of the bathroom and
she's just like, okay, thanks.
Whatever. So then we see the eulogy. So it's being done in the church part of the school.
And I think you see the headmaster. Well, the headmaster's speaking.
Yeah,
how it's such a tragedy that the beginning of this school year is ending with this, and then that's dead. And then I think it does. They never said this for sure, but they pan over to a man and a woman, and I want to say that that's probably the dad and mom of the of them.
Oh yeah,
but they don't. So they say they literally are I think it's
because we never saw them. But anyway, so yeah,
they
we have
never
this
introduced, yeah.
Exactly. So then Catherine gets up and she does her little eulogy. She has her little note card she was going over. But then some girl from outside runs into the church and she's like, pss, 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 pss,
right,
or whatever,
whispering to somebody.
And then they all get up.
And all the people are getting up.
And then there
was a full crowd of people.
In the middle of Catherine trying to give her eulogy. And then she's just like, I think Sebastian would tell me to say this. And then she's just like, what the hell? In the meantime, you have Bittersweet Symphony starting to play. And then
such an iconic song.
She's just like, what is wrong? What is going on? Don't you all have any respect? It's so good. But anyway, so then there's like, okay, whatever. And so she's like, okay, well, what the hell's going on? So she's like, all these people are running out of the church, and
iconic. This starts playing as everybody's getting out of or everybody's starting to get up really out of
the church.
Out of the church or the
whatever
area.
The hell it is. We're just gonna let this play for a minute.
Yeah, just for a minute. Perfect.
It's perfect.
Anyway. It's like the perfect soundtrack.
It is pretty good. So anyway, so we have that, and so we have that playing while everyone's leaving, and then Catherine's like, all right, fuck it, like I'm gonna run out.
And then she was like, what did she say? She's like, doesn't anybody have any
respect or whatever? So she runs out. And so she's like, okay, what's going on here?
Because everybody's kind of like looking at something, and then they're like looking at her, and they're like...
Yeah, so then you see...
They're all these like little groups of people, yeah.
You see somebody gives her something, and what we see is that... And also, Cecile's there. She's giving out these things too, because she's a student at school. And so we find out that pretty much what happened was that the diary journal of Sebastian Valmont, which was entitled Cruel Intentions, the namesake of this movie, has been published, and it has all of the information about Annette and Cecile and Catherine, being that she is promiscuous, she has a coke problem, all this kind of shit. And that's why everyone's now looking at her being like, ugh, how dare you? It's the jawbreaker moment where everyone finds out, like, whatever. So it's very that... And so it's
like
just
a single tear, like start
single
welling up.
tear. Her face is cracked at everything. And then the headmaster comes out, and we find that because it talks about how she has a coke problem, and so we find out that she has this coke problem. She carries this thing around. So it's the headmaster, and then I think the parents we're talking about are back there as well. So this is a single tear, and so that is like the end of.
And they like take the coke like necklace thing out, and then open it, and you can see a little bit fall out.
So this is happening to Catherine.
In front of everybody.
Right. Well, in the meantime, we then see Annette, who is now driving Sebastian's car. And
the 1956 Jaguar Roadster.
Exactly. And she's driving it with her, the journal in the passenger seat. She has his sunglasses she puts on. And this song's just playing as this all happens. So we see that this is funny because that's how we open the movie. And that's how we end the movie with... The opening of the movie is him driving to therapy, and then the ending of the movie is her driving into God knows what. But she's driving into her new future. We see that apparently, I guess, Catherine is now exposed, her reputation's destroyed, all of that. And that, my friends, is the end of Cruel Intentions. So needless to say, this movie is kind of a 5-star film for me. It's so horny. It's so messy. And everything.
Revenge,
deceit. All of it. It's so crazy.
I mean, hold on, I just had the thing here. No, you have it.
I have it right here. It is.
It does say on the back.
We're reading from the DVD.
Let me tell you what it says off the DVD.
Yes.
Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe sizzle as a pair of unscrupulous siblings in a deliciously sexy tale of seduction, revenge, and conquest. So that's a good way to put everything.
Pretty much.
And then it says, after cleverly seducing and ruining the reputation of an unsuspecting classmate, Cecile, the sparks fly when Catherine poses the ultimate challenge to her insatiable stepbrother, Sebastian. Deflower the headmaster's beautiful virgin daughter, Annette. If he fails, Catherine gets his most prized possession, which is his car. But if he succeeds, Sebastian gets to possess and beg Catherine. The stakes are high, but for Sebastian, the payoff is feverishly irresistible, and before the summer's over, no one will escape their relentless game of cat and mouse until one of them is bitten by the most unlikely sensation of all, love.
Oh, isn't that nice?
That is what the back of the DVD says.
That is what the back of this
But yes, I would say seduction, revenge, conquest, plotting, betrayal.
All of it.
A wild, daring new spin on the classic tale of love and betrayal. Sarah Edwards, NBC News.
Love it. So
that's what this movie's all about.
But that's what this movie is, dude. Like, and it's so fun that, like, this is also an update to this very
known movie. And it was
movie.
With the times of the cast. These
perfect actors.
Actors and actresses. Reese Witherspoon.
Ryan
Phillippe. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Selma Blair.
I mean, this...
Joshua Jackson.
This was their moment at this time.
It's so good. And, like, it made total sense. It was a different type of teen movie, you know?
And you wonder now, like, okay, if they remade this movie, like, well, first off, don't.
Don't.
But second off, it's like, you know, it just, for that time, it worked so great. Because if you would have done it 10 years before, who would you have had? Who would have did it 10 years after, 20 years after? Because, you know, nobody can never think of anything original. Right. So that it might, I'm sure, will be done again at some point. But this one will always be my favorite telling of it or something.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's a not typical movie as well. Again, I think it's not in the same vein as something like a Jawbreaker or Drop Dead Gorgeous, but like it was doing something a little different, and it was targeted to teens.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this was something where adults. It's funny because only so many teens probably saw it, even though it was R, so 17-year-olds could see it. But I think adults more so actually watched this movie, which is kind of what gave it like that bit of an audience, I guess, which is kind of funny. And then you have children like us who saw it, and then, whatever, it's all good.
And watched it at different times. Watched when they were younger, just because Ryan Phillippe's cute. I mean, honestly, I think that's probably the first thing that attracted me about it. Is, he's cute. I've seen him in the movie before, what have you. And then watching it, I'm sure years later when I was like 15 or 16, I can understand more stuff now.
Oh my God.
And then watching it definitely as an adult.
Yeah.
The few times I've watched it as an adult, and definitely rewatching it soon. I mean, now it all makes sense, but...
Yeah.
I just remember watching it when I was younger.
Absolutely. I kind of remember seeing bits and pieces
and
of
you always remember, usually if you watch something when you're younger, you usually remember, that you watched it when you were younger.
Absolutely.
Sometimes there's movies that are older like that, you never watch, and you watch when you're older. Mm-hmm. This one I'd watched when I was younger, so I have the memory of watching it, and then rewatching it.
Totally.
I've always liked it.
Yeah. And I really like it too. It's like a 5-star film for me. I kind of wish they would do like a gay version of it. I think it'd be great.
Oh my gosh.
It was so good. But anyway, so
that would be
in order
amazing.
to watch, it would be so good. In order to watch this movie, so you're in luck maybe, depending on when you're listening to this, but because of the fact that there's a TV show of Dangerous Liaisons on Starz, it is currently on Starz right now. And also, if you have a Starz subscription, you can also watch Dangerous Liaisons from 1988 on there too, which is
what we talked about earlier.
Which is what we talked about earlier. I think it's worth a watch if you've seen Cruel Intentions.
Which stars John Malkovich,
Glenn Close, all of them.
Glenn Close, Michelle
Keanu
Pfeiffer.
Reeves, yeah, all them, yeah.
Those are your people.
And they're all speaking, they're not speaking French, but they're all like in French garb, and like it's set in France. It's one of those movies.
And John Malkovich is wearing like the white wig.
He is, and like Glenn Close has her like rosy cheeks.
Hold on, does Keanu Reeves have the like white wig, or
I don't know if it's a white wig, but it's definitely like one of those weird wigs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can watch that. I would absolutely tell you to rent this if you want to, or own it. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now. I was just talking about this earlier. The Blu-ray is way too expensive, so just get this DVD real quick.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember when I got this, but I can tell you you know what? I think I just remembered where I got this.
Where'd you get it?
I could be wrong, but...
You can get it on Amazon.com.
I'll tell you what. Sometimes you just remember the weirdest shit. Like, you don't think about things for years.
Uh-huh.
I may or may have not gotten this at a flea market.
I love that. Good for you.
If I didn't, then who knows? Walmart, Target, whatever. But we'll just say maybe it was a flea market.
It's so funny. This DVD, I think, is from 2004 is when this was released. So that is so hilarious to me.
So, yeah.
But yeah, go watch it on there. This movie's so good. If you want messy drama.
And if you do want to watch it at other times, it could always pop up on Netflix. I think it may have been on there before.
I think so, too.
So if you ever, see it on there. Everybody's got Netflix.
Yeah. Do it. Or catch it on TV if it's unedited. Don't watch the edited version. It's probably
that's no fun.
No, exactly.
Because they're going to say some tomfoolery that's not going to be the right words. And they're going to what are they going to do? They're going to bleep it out. And not bleep it out, but they're going to smudge over it. And
exactly.
It's not going to have the same...
But go watch this. It's so good. But
it is.
Sarah, I'm just so happy to finally have gotten you on the pod. Thank you so much for being on here today.
It was so much fun.
We just talking and shooting the shit. It's all good. Did you want anybody to, if they're listening to the show and if they want to follow you on social media, do you want to give out your social media or no? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Maybe when I do my other one.
Yeah, maybe we do other ones and stuff like that. You can.
Not that I'm not trying to, but
yeah, you know, she just posts like things about her dog and like posts pretty pictures of herself. So you know, whatever. Of course. Also, I will say too, my sister's a huge Harry Styles fan. So you know, if you want to hit me up to tell me that, like, hey, I'm a Harry Styles fan too, it's all good too.
We can all vibe. Movies, him.
Sorry, but Don't Worry, Darling still sucked. I'm sorry.
Whatever.
Anyway. Oh, okay. Don't tell me you liked it too.
I just liked it because he was in it.
He was in it. Yeah, it makes sense.
It was pretty.
Well, again, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on today, and I'll be sure to have you on more. We have one that we're going to be doing at some point. We're not going to say what it is right now, but it's a huge one for Sarah, and it'll be fun to. Yes,
that will be a surprise when we do it, and that will be basically me schooling Jesse.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I've already told him he's either never seen it or he hasn't seen it, but he will.
I really haven't seen all of it, so yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can do so at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com. In case you want to give any movie recommendations, give feedback on the show, or if you just want to say, hey, I'm open to all of it. You can also follow the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram handle is Cult Cinema Circle, and Twitter handle is Cult Cinecircle. On those platforms, I tend to announce the different episodes I'm going to be doing. I'll make little Instagram stories when we have an episode drop and just generally interact with anybody on there that wants to interact with me. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at Jesse, Jesse, Kremp, Kremp, all one word. On there, I log the movies that I watch and write little reviews about them and just general foolishness over there. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on your podcatcher of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm pretty much out there everywhere. Be sure to leave 5 stars and a 1 to 2 sentence review so we can grow the audience more and also just spread the love all around. Be sure to tune in next week to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast, where I'll be covering 1988's Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Upon arriving in a small town where she has inherited a run-down mansion, a famous horror hostess battles an evil uncle and townspeople who want her burned at the stake. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast, and remember, email is for geeks and pedophiles. Take care. Bye.